10 seconds. Okay.
Oh, it's good to be back.
And a very good morning, everybody. Welcome. Yes, it is good to be back. It is the Pete Sheppard Show live from the Naples Well Playing Studio here on the Riptide Media Network. Oh, it's good to be back. I got a lot to say. Welcome, my little sports minions. How are you today? It is Tuesday, May 21st. I actually wrote down May 22nd. I don't know why. Oh, so much to talk about. Gonna get it all in 3 hours, though, I promise. Welcome to the Pete Sheppard Show here live from the Naples Well Playing Studio on the Riptide Media Network. The number to call or text 727-858-6650. 727-858-6650. You can watch the show, which I highly recommend. Listen and watch the show right here on the Riptide Media Network video platform, which is outstanding. You can follow me on Twitter, X at PShep326, on my Facebook and Broad Street South, Facebook and YouTube pages, Twitch, Spotify, Rumble, LinkedIn, and of course on Sports Radio 102.9. I am here until 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, except for yesterday where I had some travel difficulties getting back from Rhode Island. But nevertheless, had a great time seeing a lot of guys from my high school that I have not seen, some of them within 30 years. It was a great time that we had. Absolutely fantastic seeing a lot of my friends from Bishop Hendricken High School. The great class of 85, one of the great classes of all time. So my friends Pete, and Jack, and Kevin, and Kenny. Who else? Steve. Who else did we see? I don't know. A whole bunch of guys. It was fun. Guys I had not seen in a long, long time. It's good to know that nothing has changed. The bantering about sports is still, very funny. The in-house bantering was like we were back in homeroom back in the day. We actually read papers and scream at each other about this team or that team, whatever. Not a lot of that the other night, but it was a lot of fun. We just caught up on family and friends and stories like that. It was great. It was great. However, the temperature was not. First day I got there, it was 65 degrees and sunny. It was kind of a nice day. Then it went downhill from there. I mean, I felt like those of you who ever watched Man of Steel, which I think is a pretty good movie. A lot of people don't. I think Man of Steel was the true story of Superman. I thought they did a pretty good job with it. The part of, I don't know if you remember the movie, the part at the end where General Zod probably is sort of like winning the little war between them, and he can't get. He's down and like in this like quicksand of stuff. I don't know what it was, and he just reaches up to try to have the sun's yellow rays affect him so he get his, because that's what gives Superman his power, that you don't know, is the yellow sun. Of course, the red sun of Krypton, when Krypton blew up, that's what, that's why everybody in Krypton didn't have superpowers, but if you survive Krypton, you do, as I totally nerd out here in the first few minutes. So I was like, Henry Cavill just reaching for the sun. That's what I was like, and it was nothing. It was nowhere to be found. And when I finally landed back in Fort Myers, to step outside, and even though it was, already 85 to 88 degrees, humidity was low, I felt so much better. I felt my powers returning. So I said, next time you come down here when we have a proper temperature in May, not some lame ass 50 to 55 degrees raw. And Angel Martinez is here as well, as always. co-host and executive producer extraordinaire. And I said to him, "You're going to come down here with better temperatures in May. I am not going back up there. Next time, you guys can follow me down here." And it just was. It was raw and cold, but it was the rekindled friendships of guys I had not seen in a long time. It was a lot of fun. Good morning, Angel. How are you? How was your weekend?
Good morning, Pete. It was a busy weekend as we're getting things finalized here for the big day coming up here in less than 25 days. It is right around the corner.
That is your wedding day. You and the Dynamic Debbie's wedding day.
See. So we had 25 days for that. We got a couple of days before the next home game here with the Predators. But no, good weekend. Got some things here in the lab / studio that should sound a lot better. We're going to have a call-in at 8 o'clock with Aaron so we can make sure that everybody can hear him and all that good fun stuff. But yeah, it was a busy weekend. Fun nonetheless. I think last night may have gotten the best amount of rest that I've had in God knows how long. So
good, you deserve it, man. You deserved it. And your Predators won. I know there was some weather issues and stuff. That's good. Your Orlando Predators won, so that's that was good. I do have a poll question up also. A simple one. Very simple. Already 111 votes. I put it up about 52 minutes ago. Who wins the Pacers-Celtics ECF series? That's Eastern Conference Finals, for those of you who don't know what that means. And 4 options: Celtics in 5, Celtics in 6, Celtics in 7. Because I couldn't put any, I had only read one more. Pacers win in 5, 6, or 7. So far, Celtics in 5 is 33.3%. Celtics in 6, which is my prediction, 52.3%. Celtics in 7, 8.1%. And Pacers to win in 5, 6, or 7, 6.1%. So game 1 is tonight at TD Garden, and looking forward to it as well. And there's a lot of pressure on me, Angel. There's a lot of pressure on the Celtics because it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Everybody expects if they don't win, it's a failure. And I understand where it's coming from because they've been to the ECFs, 5 out of 6 years or 3 out of 4 years, 5 out of 6 years, whatever, 3 straight and 5 out of 6. And I totally get it. And this arguably is one of their best teams, I think, in the history of the franchise, which is saying a lot. When Porzingis is healthy. He's not going to be there for the first 2 games. No excuses. No excuses. We will be, I guarantee you this week, there will be people who will, media and fans alike, if they don't win or if they split at home, it'll be a disaster. And I'll be honest with you, I kind of expect them to split at home. I do. Then they play better on the road. Look, we know what the Celtics can be, and we know what the Indiana Pacers. They're fully healthy. The Celtics haven't played a fully quote unquote healthy team in a while, so this is going to be a great test. There's no doubt about it. We know what Indiana can do, score a lot, but the Celtics, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Dallas Mavericks. Those are the 3 best defensive teams left. So I do think defense is going to be a key factor in this. I don't see Indiana like racing out to, they average about 123 points a game. I think they're going to be well below that. So a lot of people are saying between this series and the next series with Dallas and Minnesota, like first 1 to 100 wins, but we'll see. Both teams are capable of lighting it up. There's no question about it. Both teams are capable of lighting it up, but the pressure that I have, it's like if the Celtics don't win, you guys choked again. If you did win, well, you were supposed to win. You had the easiest path to the finals, all that bullshit, blah, 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 blah. I wish some of the same people with all this constructive criticism on the Celtics would go back in history and look at the entire NBA, even since the last 25 years. It's just not as easy as you think. You don't think there were years. If that was the case, I don't know how some of these media members would have reacted back in the 80s, because Angel knows this. God forbid the Celtics, 76ers, or Lakers didn't win. Then it was a failed season.
Yep.
No, it was a failed season in those cities because we expected to win. But those were back in those days. Those are 3 great teams, arguably the 3 best teams. Detroit a little bit later on, and of course then the Bulls later on. But all 3 of them couldn't win it every year. Now for a time it seemed that way. But just because they didn't win it didn't mean they sucked. Just something you can't. I mean, you can't win it every year. You know, it wasn't like the Celtics in the late 50s and 60s and stuff like that. It was different era. But I wonder, these same people that put their hard-hitting analysis on the NBA today, it's like if you lose, then oh my God, I said it before. Now, I've seen the Celtics lose on Memorial Day to beat the Celtics. I mean, the Celtics beating the Lakers on Memorial Day, I think by 44 points back in 1985. Lakers won the series. And they won it in Boston, which is even worse. The Denver Nuggets the other night, when you're down by 53 at one point, that to me, at that point in the series, that is, now you want criticism there, you got it, especially for defending world champions, and then you've got that was the craziest series. If you had ever told me, not that Minnesota couldn't win in 7, but the way they won it with 3 games on the road, I don't know. But my overall point is that my Celtics are damned if you do, damned if you don't. If they don't win, then they sucked and blah, blah, whatever. They could lose games. They could go 7 games with either Minnesota or Dallas. Lose 4 games to 3. Have every game be within 3 points, and people will still say, see, you sucked and did that. Look, they should win. The Celtics should win. They have one of the best teams they've ever assembled here when completely healthy. And even without Porzingis, they still should be able to beat the Indiana Pacers, even though he's going to miss the first 2 games. But if they should lose in 7 to Minnesota or Dallas in the end, am I going to be upset? Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit upset. But, life goes on. Life goes on. I'm not going to have this overreact, blow it up, say they couldn't do it, because the same people who are going to criticize them if they lost in 7 games to Dallas or Minnesota are going to be they're on like their little island, their little soapbox. Well, if the Celtics win, then they should have won, and it's not going to be such a joyous occasion. Not everybody, but there's some minority, and I don't mean people, minority people, media people, right, who are saying that. No matter what, they're expected to win that. And then it's the same people talking about Minnesota and Dallas are the same people that have watched like 3 games all year for those teams, if that. They've seen a couple of halves of basketball. Absolutely cracks me up. All of a sudden, everybody becomes an expert on the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Dallas Mavericks. People don't watch jack poop during the NBA during the season like we do. And all of a sudden they become an expert about Anthony Edwards in Minnesota and Pillsbury Doughboy there, Luka Doncic, and Kyrie Irving, and yada, 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 yada. Just enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to have fun. I know I'll be angry at the Celtics at some point in this series. I have no doubt. But one thing I can tell you this, I don't think they're ever going to be down by 53 points. In a half at home. I would be very shocked if that happens. Should be an electric atmosphere at the Garden tonight. It's going to be an electric atmosphere in Indiana. Come Saturday night when Game 3 is. Game 2 is Thursday, and then the other series, Denver, Minnesota, start tomorrow. We've got Stanley Cup playoff action as well that starts tomorrow. Edmonton got it done. They were my team to come out of the West anyway. I never picked a team in the East. I didn't. I thought Edmonton would get it done. They got one more series to do. They won a big Game 7 last night against a banged up Vancouver team, but Edmonton hung on. They were up 3-0. They hung on for the 3-2 win. We have all the highlights. But I want to start today, and I would have done this yesterday as well. I am embarrassed for you, ESPN. And Stephen A. Smith, that pregame debacle that you did on Sunday. I mean, is this what we've come down to in sports media? The problem is ESPN is trying so hard on the NBA coverage to be like TNT, and they're never going to be like TNT, ever. Not going to happen. That absolute clown show, pregame show. When Spike Lee doesn't want any part of Stephen A. Smith, you know you got a problem. And I'm going to play the video in case you missed it. The pregame show on ABC Sunday afternoon at about, 3:40 or so, right before tip-off, was absolutely beyond embarrassing what happened. I mean, you talk about, it's fun to goof around about homerism. Look, you see all my schools behind me, and not schools and professionally. Yes, I root for them. I want them to win. But I have come on here many, many times and ripped my team or the organization, the Miami Hurricanes, and the Bruins, Celtics, Red Sox, and Patriots. I don't back down. If I think they stink, they stink. I've already said if the Patriots win more than 5 games this year, that's a great season. I'm hoping I'm pleasantly surprised. The Red Sox are the Red Sox. I picked them to finish in last place anyway at the start of the season. So far, they've hovered around 500. They did win last night. The Celtics and Bruins have been championship caliber teams the last 5 years. They just haven't won it. They've come close. Both of them have come close. They've both been in the finals at least once in the last 5 years, and they both lost. And the Bruins lost Game 7 at home against St. Louis 5 years ago, and the Celtics were up 2-1 on Golden State and lost. I mean, they're there. So... but I have no problem saying the other team outplayed them. If it should be this Knicks stuff, what they did. You're not working for the Knicks, Stephen A. Smith. You cannot sit there. Well, I guess you can now. For some people, just sit there and just on national TV, not like shows like this. We're having fun, and even local radio, local terrestrial radio. I understand that you got local announcers that are going to hopefully still be objective, but openly root for your teams. But you can't. What Stephen A. did is embarrassing. Imagine doing what he did on Sunday afternoon. If that was, and he hates the Dallas Cowboys, right? He makes fun of them all the time. What if somebody on ESPN went on a Dallas Cowboy rant like that? And so over the top, pathetic. And ESPN the whole day and ABC did not even acknowledge the Indiana Pacers were even playing. Didn't even acknowledge it. It was embarrassing to listen to. So that being said, watch this video and listen to Stephen A. Angel, if we could punch that up. This is his pregame show debacle. And I was at an establishment watching the game, and I cannot tell you, there were about 100 people in this sports bar where I was, and just screaming and booing him. Here's how it went down on NBA Countdown on ABC on Saturday afternoon.
Talking about all of that, Stephen A. Smith, it is your moment. Please rally the Knicks faithful for a totally unbiased opinion of the outcome of this game.
Oh, boy. Good luck with that.
Well, see, I don't have to rise New York to the occasion because they all here. Everybody's ready. Ignore Bob Myers, Mr. California. Ignore Will Bard, Mr. Chicago. They ain't here right now. You understand what's at stake. It's been since 2000 that we've been in the conference finals. We've waited 24 years for this moment right here. OG Anunoby is back. Josh Hart's going to play. When you talk about Game 7, it comes down to grinding. It comes down to guts. It comes down to who would have been. Come up in here. Come up in here, Spike Lee. You come right here, right now. Come right here. It's orange and blue skies, baby. This is what it's all about right here. This is what we've been waiting for right here. It's Game 7. This is what it's about. Get that hat on. Put it back on it. The New York Knicks. It's about grinding. It's about guts. It's about heart. That's what games are. Anyway, this is what it's about. This is what we waited for right here. One game, 48 minutes. Orange and blue skies, baby. Orange and blue skies. That is what it's all about, Bob.
Well, God, in Game 7, I'm going back to my seat.
Right.
Is that equal times for anybody from Indiana?
We ready.
The best part of that interview was at the end. Spike Lee wanted nothing. He was like, "I want to go back to my seat."
Yeah.
After he's assaulted, if I was Spike Lee, I would have punched him in the nuts and said, "Just let go of me, man." I'll stand by you for it. First, I kick you in the nuts, then you kick me in the nuts. And that's embarrassing. I have never in my life. Can you imagine back in the day when the NBA was on CBS? Remember all those great noontime games that used to happen? Yeah. Boston, Philly Lakers. I mean, these the top games to be at noontime or 3:30 back in the day. Can you imagine like some of the CBS crew or even when the NBC crew to not acknowledge the Indiana Pacers at all? And halftime was just as bad. Just ridiculous. It's that is embarrassing for that. And absolutely embarrassing. Not to mention they got their asses whipped at home. I didn't bet on the game because I couldn't access my Florida app where I was in Rhode Island. But I would have taken the Pacers +3. I would have been either +4 or +3.5. Absolutely, all day. I don't know where these delusions of grandeur came up with the Knicks fans thinking after what happened the game before, and when you don't have Bogdanovich, you don't have Randall, you had And I know during the game, I mean, okay, defense, you had Brunson who got banged up, obviously, in the game. Anunoby had 5 points in the game, no rebound. I mean, it was just a matter of they didn't have it. I don't blame the Knicks. I think they did as well as they possibly could do. But by the way, in case you missed it, 0 for 16, Angel. 0 for 16. You know what that stat's from? 0 for 16 in this game?
They keep missing?
No. Well, missing, you got the missing part right. That was the 16 ESPN analyst predictions before Game 7. All 16 picked the Knicks. Every single one of them picked the Knicks. Every one of them. 0 for 16. That is an absolute joke. And you're supposed to listen to some of these people, try to be objective about it? God, I mean, it's just ridiculous. 0 for 16. Now, here's some reaction to Stephen A, in case you missed. Here's one. And, Dan Patrick, embarrassed for ESPN. This is from the Dan Patrick Show.
Now we turn our attention to ESPN's New York Knicks, who lost in Game 7 to the Pacers. Pacers did play in the game. I just want to let ESPN
Breaking
know.
News.
If you want to buy into East Coast bias, you have every reason to buy into ESPN's East Coast bias watching that game. How about some impartiality here? Okay. I was embarrassed for ESPN because it felt like it was all about the Knicks. Even at halftime, it was about the Knicks.
Yep.
The Pacers aren't exciting. I get it. Not big names, not a sexy team. But you still have to cover the game. You got to be fair. I don't need a Stephen A. Smith arrival video.
Oh, God,
I don't need a pep talk with him and Spike Lee. He doesn't work for the Knicks. You work for ESPN. I was really surprised. And I didn't care who won. But after that, I was rooting for the Pacers. I thought, you know what? Let's make this uncomfortable for you. And Indiana was the better team, but they were only the better team because the Knicks ran out of gas. They ran out of players.
Boom.
And, I don't know if a Knick fan goes, you know what? That was pretty impressive. I hope they do. That was impressive what they did. You get them health. You already have some guys that got some great, run here. And I would be really excited about next season.
Yeah, I agree with that. And as long as they stay reasonably healthy, I absolutely agree with that. He felt the same way I did. Basically said the same thing, and I hadn't heard that cut before. But I know we were on the same page. Dan's a great guy, very level-headed. I don't know how Stephen A. can not get some kind of a memo from his bosses. I don't know how they even allowed it. I don't know if the panel that was there in the studio knew what was coming. And they did show ABC on purpose. They absolutely showed the arrival video. They showed Halliburton walking in. I think they showed who else? Brunson. And then they showed, on purpose, Stephen A. walking in like he's a freaking player. Buddy, you're just a sports media guy who tries to sound like Martin Luther King every chance you get. You preach at people all the time, telling people what they should think, what they should know. Appreciate the passion, but it's just, that was, as a professional, of somebody at ESPN like you that gets paid $12 million a year, I can get 10 guys off the street and do what you did for that pregame show. You added nothing. There was nothing except over-the-top fanboyism bullshit. That's all it was. There was no objectivity. You didn't mention any analysis. You didn't mention any of the Pacer players. You didn't talk about matchups or anything like that. All you did was you could have taken anybody out of the stands at Madison Square Garden and done the same thing.
Yep.
$12 million a year for that nonsense. $12 million. $12 million. Unbelievable. Pat McAfee. He ripped Stephen A. as well.
Hey, after they
Never
lose.
saw.
And then you see a lot of TV personnel game. What do they need to do halftime? They need, after the game, bummed out. There was a time, actually, when they announced that Jalen Brunson's hand was broke, where it seemed like Doris Burke didn't even talk. Devastation.
Shell shock.
Hit the booth. Devastation hit the TV. Could you imagine if this Knicks team, who was hurt, so hurt, had to play this Boston Celtics team?
my God.
Everybody's wishing it was New York versus Boston. You want that New York Knicks team that's so so injured to take on this Boston Celtics team? I don't think so. That's not good for anybody. What is good for everybody is that this Pacers team is building the right stuff. You know, Coach Carlisle even said in the locker room afterwards, boys, you came in here, you beat this team sorry ass in the Mecca in Madison Square Garden in front of all their stupid little celebrity fans. John Chetrid's dumbass, who's only sitting there because his dad's successful, running his mouth at Tyrese Halliburton, waking him up, dumb. That seems like a bad idea, especially in a game 7. This is good for basketball.
Great.
This is good for the NBA, who is now going to have, I believe, 6 straight seasons with a different winner.
I love it. Dumb. Like your great kazoo. Dumb. Halliburton was awesome. 26 points, 4 red. But, it was close in the first quarter, early second quarter. And then you knew, at least I did. I really felt the Knicks were just going to absolutely run out of gas. I mean, I think they did as well as they could. I think Thibodeau coached, who I love as a coach. I think he coached as well as you can coach a team that had that many injuries. How everybody at ESPN goes 0 for 16. 0 for 16. If you were a baseball player, I'd send you back down to AA. Forget AAA. You go back down to AA. Although AA is better than AAA. AA is the new AAA, really. Most of the talent is in AA. So I'd send you back to AAA. I'd send you back to A. Go to bus leagues, man. That is 0 for 16. You talk about non-objectivity, not talking about fair and impartial, nothing. I have never seen a bunch of idiots, all 0 for 16 and all root. I never seen a network in my life root for the Knicks to win like that happened on ABC/ESPN. Embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing.
Yep.
Without a doubt. I'll have more after and more videos and stuff, but I've never rooted for a team more. And I agree with Dan Patrick. I was never rooting for a team more than I was with the Indiana Pacers on Sunday. Absolutely, unbelievable. They win by 21 on the road against a banged-up Knicks team. And then you have these idiotic fans that have the nerve. Some of them are surprised. Some of them were praising. We're going to take a quick break, Angel. When we come back, there's a funny clip here that I have from Evan Roberts, does the morning show on WFAN. He doesn't understand why Knicks fans are okay with this loss. He goes off on them. We'll play that for you. We have highlights from Dallas at Minnesota. Preview, I should say, for game 1, which should be a fantastic 7-game series. I have no idea who's going to win. No idea. I'm picking the Celtics in 6 against Indiana. And I think Dallas and Minnesota go 7, and I don't know. I'm rooting for Minnesota because I think it would be fantastic. Not that I wouldn't want to see. I would love to play Kyrie in the finals and dump all over him. But I would Boston, Minnesota with Anthony Edwards and everybody else. And now Anthony Edwards is now in case you didn't hear this, Angel, breaking news. Some of the same pundits who went 0 for 16 are claiming that Anthony Edwards is now the new face of the NBA. You know why? Because he's funny. He's funny after press conference. He is. He's an entertaining guy. He's one of the best players in the NBA. Could he be developed to be the face of the I don't really know who the face of the NBA is. Is it Nikola Jokic? Is it Doncic? I don't know. And you know what? When people get all caught up in that kind of minutia, I don't care. Do you care, Angel, who the face of the NBA is? As far as I'm concerned, you're the face of the NBA. You are the face of Riptide Media Network here as exec producer because I wouldn't be able to turn on the lights without you. But the face of the NBA, do you really care? What does that mean? Jerry West was on the logo for years until recently. The face of the league. Do people really care about that stuff? Who's on the cover of video games? I mean, is that the face? I don't. Somebody tell me who the face of the league. I keep hearing, it's not Jason Tatum because he doesn't lead enough. Well, he led the last 3 games. He led the Celtics in everything. But because he doesn't say MF a lot after press conferences like Anthony Edwards, or is more not as colorful as Anthony Edwards, he's not, I heard that he's not a leader. There's a lot of things that show up outside of the box score, or that don't show up outside the box score, that makes you a leader. Jason Tatum does not have to score 30, 10, and 10 every single night to be a leader.
Yep.
Now, I understand the constructive criticism about him, but the Celtics aren't that type of team. They don't need one guy. It's a very unique situation. They don't need one guy. Jason Tatum can go 15 points, 10 assists, and 9 rebounds, and still have a great game. As long as he doesn't turn the ball over. There are other guys on that team that can pick up the slack. It's not even picking up the slack. It's just the Celtics have a whole bunch of scorers. They got like 7 guys that can put up double digits, 8 guys at any given time. They're not that type of team where they need a quote-unquote a leader. A leader, to me, you know what Jason Tatum can do? Don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. Don't make stupid passes. And, and for the most part, these playoffs, and they're 8-2 in the playoffs, let's not forget that, he's been pretty good as far as turnovers. A couple times, and when they had double-digit leads, you see they try. I hate when they try stuff. They become like the Globetrotters sometimes and make that extra pass instead of just stay in just play your game. That's where the leaders to me will be the ones who do not turn the ball over. That's been a key stat against the Celtics in a lot of these Eastern Conference Finals games and in the NBA championship a few years ago against Golden State. It was turnovers. So they have one of the best defensive teams in the league. You cut down on the turnovers. They really should win the series in 5, but I'll pick them in 6. But that's how you lead to me. Don't turn the ball over. There's going to be nights where Drew Holiday or Jaylen Brown or Al Horford, as we've seen, Porzingis, if he comes back, he's probably going to miss the first 2 games. Well, he's definitely going to miss tonight. He might miss tomorrow, Thursday night as well. They have plenty of people that can fill in. Derek White is outstanding. Little Pritchard is fantastic. They've got Hauser and Cornette coming off the bench. I mean, there's no reason. I don't need Jason. If anybody out there was telling you Jason Tatum has to be 30, 10, and 10, triple-double-esque every single night to win, they're wrong. Doncic and the Mavericks have to. If Doncic and Kyrie Irving don't play well, they're in trouble. And Minnesota is a very good basketball team as well. Obviously, they've had a great season, but they're still young, although you wouldn't know it the way they play. Anyway, I'm rambling on. I'm already late for a first break. When I come back, as I started this, we will play a clip from WFAN ripping Knicks fans because they seem to be okay with the Game 7 loss. Mick Colagio will join me at 8:30. We'll break down Stanley Cup playoff action. The Eastern Western Conference Finals are there. Dylan Spalding going to join us at 8 a.m. He says hello, by the way. Spalding Media says good morning, gents, as well. MLB rundown also. Lots to talk about. And NFL, OTAs are ongoing. So far, I haven't seen any major injuries. Devontae Parker is retiring, as many of you have reached out to me and said, I thought he retired with the Patriots a couple of years ago because he was so inconsistent. But yes, and I understand all that. Okay, quick break. Pete Sheppard Show. When we return, we will continue on my tirade against Stephen A's ridiculous overreaction, pregame show on ABC/ESPN on Sunday afternoon. Get your thoughts as well. 727-858-6650. Pete Sheppard Show here until 10 a.m. right here live in the Naples Wealth Planning Studio on the Riptide Media Network.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. It's the Pete Sheppard Show. Yes, a lot of pressure. Oh, a lot of pressure on so many of the teams to the left. Oh, my goodness. A lot of pressure on my Celtics. If they don't win, they suck. If they win, they were supposed to. I cannot stand that mentality. Went through it for 20-plus years with the Patriots, Angel. It's great and it sucks all at the same time because every year they didn't win the Super Bowl was a bad season. I just don't look at it that way. Now, I know with this Celtics team, it's a little bit different. They should win. They're the most talented team. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league, and they should win the series, and they're going to be favorites to win the finals. And you will have everybody and their mother's mother on the other side rooting like hell for either Minnesota or Dallas to beat the Celtics. One, because it's just hatred for New England sports because of all the winning that's happened the last 20-plus years. And the other is they want to be the ones to say, Angel, I told you Anthony Edwards would be the face of the – I heard the local ESPN national show promo this morning. I forget what's her name that kind of co-hosts it, whatever, that does it. I'll tell you. I was laughing my head off. I'll tell you why. What was she saying? Whatever it was. She was going to tell you something about something in the NBA. Yeah. Okay, sweetheart. Right. I'll wait for it, And it could have been the other guys, too. And I would have said, hey, yeah, okay, buddy. Yeah, I'll tell you. So I'm going to say, I'll tell you anything. I think the Celtics win in 6. And I'll tell you that if you pick Indiana, you're a bubblehead. No, I'm sure there will be people. I guarantee you there will not be freaking 0 for 16s. There won't be people on ESPN that won't pick Indiana. They will.
Sure won't.
Not because they think they're going to win, just because they hate the Celtics. Because now I can't trust mostly anybody over there. Very few people. Except for the people that I know and respect. Guys like Kevin Winter and Doug Brown and some others who can be objective about it. Not some, $12 million Nick fanboy beyond belief, Stephen A. Smith. As I said, I could have picked 100 people out of the stands at Madison Square Garden and done the same exact thing that he did. As a professional broadcaster, it's one thing to have fun and everything else. And you can talk all you want about TNT. And, Chuck may be wrong with his guarantee and all that stuff. But they give you now they have fun. And Kenny and him and Shaq and Ernie, of course, is the straw that stirs the drink and keeps everything together. They give you hard-hitting analysis usually, and they have fun at the same time. I didn't hear any hard-hitting analysis on ESPN Sunday afternoon pregame. Did you? I didn't hear it. All I heard was fanboy homerism for what seemed to be the Knicks flagship station. If you wanted to merge with the Yes Network, go and do it, or SNY. Go do it. Take us out of our misery. Game 7 at home, a banged-up Knicks team that was lucky to even be there, and 16 people at ESPN picked the Knicks to win. Yeah, that's fair and impartial. Idiots. Freaking idiots. Evan Roberts of WFAN. Angel, this is interesting. He doesn't understand why Knicks fans are okay with the loss, some of them.
What I do not understand from a lot of Knicks fans today is how you're okay. I don't understand that. I don't understand the thank yous. I don't understand the tears. I don't understand the chants. I don't understand these standing ovations that were given out yesterday. And maybe that says more about me, that I am broken as a sports fan. But when my team loses, it doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter why. When they lose and the season ends, I do not sit there and act like, well, we accomplished a lot, and that was a lot of fun. I don't understand that. The facts are the New York Knicks got eliminated in the second round of the postseason. The same place they got eliminated 1 year ago. Facts. The facts are they had a lead in Game 3 with a 2-0 series lead, and they blew it. Facts. The facts are they got blown out in a Game 7 at home. Facts. And here are the other facts. Yes, the Knicks were ravaged by injuries. I don't deny that. That doesn't make me feel better. Never, and it never will. So what I don't understand about my fellow New Yorkers is what happened to you. Why are we celebrating? Why are we happy? Why are we smiling? Why are we saying thank you? Do I have to be the voice of reason? I'd be pissed. No. I'd be angry, and I'd be devastated that my season ended.
And you'll be one of a million people who give a crap more about the team and they don't give a damn about you. And I understand that. And I appreciate the passion. But you got to. This is where Evan is way off base here. There are injury excuses, and then there are injury excuses. I think you got to give the Knicks a pass, not a little bit of a pass, a lot of a pass, a lot. And I can't believe I have to say this. I mean, when you're losing what they had to deal with to even get to this series without three of their better players in the lineup, including Brunson. You can't ask for more of Hart, Brunson, DiVincenzo, of what they did. Randall out, Bogdanovich out, and others. Can you imagine if it was? That's like it's almost like if the 76ers were in the playoffs, you didn't have Embiid, which has happened. But in this stage of the game, to put it in perspective, if the Celtics didn't have, say, Tatum or Brown, one of those two, Porzingis, Drew Holiday, and maybe Hauser, I wouldn't expect him to beat Indiana. No way. No way would I expect him to beat Indiana like that. It's just, I mean, you can't take three really good, great players off of your team and just think that you got to give them a tiny bit of a pass. Now, no one's going to give the Celtics a pass, Porzingis or no Porzingis, and I understand that. But I think if you're a Knicks fan, you got to be a little more forgiving. And maybe, I don't know why Evan cannot understand that. But it's for me to have sympathy for a Nick team. It's because I have so much respect for Thibodeau. I don't know if a lot of other coaches could have got them as far as they did with what they had. I think they went as far as they could, and they ran out of gas. That's exactly what happened. As I said, Dan Patrick and others have said it. They simply ran out of gas. I don't care if it's at home. I don't care.
We mentioned it too here on the show that without Brunson, they were not going to win, and they didn't. Brunson went out with that left hand injury against Halliburton's knee.
Yeah, the second quarter. Yeah, that was it, and that was it right there. I mean, that was if it wasn't over before, that was it.
Yep. There's only so much DiVincenzo Hart was able to do, and they were. Listen, and again, see, Knicks fans, this is the big difference. I never made fun as far as when it came down to your team because we had mentioned about your injuries and how things had happened. We talked about the officiating, but I've also never heard a venue for all the Knicks fans that were so fired up. Game 7 was much quieter than any other games in the series. And it was almost like they already knew that they were going to end up losing. But yeah, I mean, you got to hats off to the Knicks because they were banged up. Next year, if they're not as banged up, we could be seeing them run to the Eastern Conference Finals. I can see it depending on what they're going to do with Brunson as well. But I can definitely see it. But they're going to unload some guys because they know they got contracts also to deal with. But Knicks overall, listen, hats off to you guys because you played a good series. But here comes Indiana and the Celtics.
Yeah, and if you scroll down, Angel, and also if you scroll down, Angel, I'm going to play that video in a second of Stephen A. yesterday, opened on First Take. He had a doctor coat on and a stethoscope, and him and Alan Hahn. And it got even more embarrassing yesterday as well. I'll play that in a second. But everything you said is dead on, balls accurate, as Mona Lisa Vito said in My Cousin Vinny. Let's not forget the fact the Pacers shot 67.1%.
Yep.
Well, I've been making fun of the Knicks, calling them the Villanova Knicks on this run. But you talk about shooting the lights out of the basket like Villanova did against Georgetown in '85 in the championship game. Sorry, Jack. It's my good friend. And but shot 67.1%, 13 to 24 from three. Even if the Knicks are healthy, everybody's healthy. I don't know if they're going to win that game with the Pacers shooting 67.1%. Of course, people say, well, they have the better players and they play better defense. Yeah, I get that. They've averaged 123.3 points during the regular season. Sixth highest in league history. Set an NBA record that scored 140 11 times. They made 29 of their 38 shots in the first half. The first half, Angel, they shot 76.3%. That's the highest in the postseason since '97 when the NBA began keeping detailed play-by-play for all four quarters. They're up at 70-55 at that point and pulled away every time the Knicks tried to make a run in the second half. Yeah. Yesterday, after we gave you already, we let you watch the video of Stephen A. make a fool out of himself in the pregame show. This is him making more of on Sunday. This is him now after that. And by the way, Stephen A. was nowhere to be found, Angel, after the game on Game 7. Didn't say much. Nobody could find him. Nowhere to be found.
Shocking.
And here's him making more of a fool out of himself yesterday on First Take with Alan Hahn.
I mean, I just don't know what to say. I mean, and, I think about Shay out in L.A., and he talked about the Pacers with it, but who did they go against? Did they go against the Knick players or the patients that were wearing the Knick uniform? I saw injuries everywhere. You see what I'm wearing, man. I mean, it's so close, man. It's so close.
Be okay.
It's
gonna be okay.
You just try. We got so close, and then everybody gets hurt. Everybody get hurt. It's all right, though. I'm still proud of the New York Knicks. We were almost there. Okay? We'll be back. Shay, you hear me? Shay. We'll be back.
That's okay, bro. I got you. We'll be okay.
Shut up, you. That's not funny. It's not funny. It's not entertaining. It might have been had he not been such a jackass on Sunday on his pregame and some of the other stuff that he does over there, just yelling and screaming and preaching. I hate being preached at by anybody. especially someone as I mean, Stephen A. has never been, when he's preaching at you, he's never wrong. It's like he thinks he's God talking to you. No, please. See, that to me is not funny. I could, if Charles Barkley and Shaq and Kenny did the same thing, they would make it funny. It would be funny. That's not funny. It's stupid, childish. Again, I could take a million people off the street, bring them into the studio, and do that stuff. That's just not funny at all. 727-858-6650. I'll tell you what's funny. What's so funny? Tell me what's funny. What the fuck is so funny about me? Tell me what's funny. It's my Joe Pesci in Goodfellas.
Yep.
Oh my God. All right, one more video in the NBA. This is kind of funny. Now, this is kind of funny. Right above that, Angel, is Paul Pierce on Fox on Undisputed Live. People are wondering why he had a big bandage around his finger the other day. I don't watch these shows, and I seriously watching Skip Bayless. I don't watch those shows. It's ridiculous. But this is kind of a funny segment, which is why anything that I feel is going to be entertaining or stir your emotions, I'm going to play on this show. Whether you hate it or love it, it is what it is. I want to play interesting stuff that people are talking about. So here's what happened to Paul Pierce. Wondering he had a bad finger injury. He explains what the hell happened last week. Here it is.
It's time to welcome in. Pierce, wait a second. No wheelchair today? You playing hurt. Playing hurt, man.
No, I'm all right.
Are you?
I'm in the game still.
So you have an injured finger.
I was crushing in the weight room, man.
Crushing in the weight room?
I was crushing in the weight room.
And?
The plate fell on my hand while I was...
fell on your hand from where?
I was doing a plank with a 45.
Okay,
nobody can do that really, but, but true gorillas in the weight room.
That is true.
So, and then it slid off, smashed my hand, had to have surgery, but I'm here nice early Monday morning.
Wow. And you had surgery? What did they have to put a pin in it?
Put a pin in it. I'm not
Don't ask him that question. Don't ask him a question about a pin in it or anything, Skip. The reason I say this is, this conversation about toughness and football and all of that.
Yeah, I drove.
He had to be sedated to get this surgery.
No, I didn't.
He had to be put underneath.
Finger smashed open, bone came out. I drove myself to the hospital. Got the surgery, went home. And drunk a cup of coffee.
Did they put you under, yes or no?
Football.
Did they put you under, yes or no, Paul?
Then I'm going to go to the weight room again today.
Why not?
You won't answer me.
And get right back in action.
Did they put you under, yes or no?
No, they didn't.
Oh, so
they gave me some laughing juice.
Oh, some laughing juice.
That's it.
Or gas.
Laughing gas.
Oh, God.
All right, that's somewhat entertaining. It really is. Now, I'm sure you remember was it 2008 or 2000? I can't remember. Remember when Paul got wheeled off into the locker room in the wheelchair?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody thinks it's because he had some sort of a leg injury or something like that. And then remember how he had that Willis Reed moment, came back out not too much longer after that. I can tell you this, as the story goes, Angel, it had nothing to do with any leg injury that day. He did poopy pants. He had poopy pants.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's true. That from everybody that is that I respect has told me he had poopy pants, and just if he'd ever walked to the locker room, it would have probably been one of the more embarrassing things you'd ever see on TV in your life. Now, in the NFL, by the way, I've been privileged enough to work with many. And speak with many great athletes, NFL players over the years. And I can tell you, forget the disgusting XXX stuff that happens at the bottom of piles that fans really never see. And I'm talking crotch grabbing, finger poking, prodding, pillaging, whatever verbiage you want to use. It happens at the bottom of the NFL pile a lot of times, even with extreme close-ups that you don't see, including guys puking, which we've seen, guys pissing their pants, it happens, and guys doing poopy pants. That happens too. Sometimes, the street, it does. Not often, but it does happen. Guys are not going to go to the locker room, especially if you're in the midst of a big-time playoff game in the third or fourth quarter, and all of a sudden you're having a GI issue. You are not calling timeout so your star player can go to the bathroom. Doesn't happen. It's disgusting, but it does happen. So sometimes, I'm telling you, you guys have every type of fluid that can come out of your body has happened in an NFL game before. I promise you that. Disgusting as that is, but it does happen. Meanwhile, put some more milk in your Cheerios. Think about that. 727-858-6650. 727-858-6650. That is the number to call. NHL last night. Outstanding game last night. Once again, between the Edmonton Oilers and the the banged up Vancouver Canucks. Edmonton got it going in the second period.
Face-off comes to Kulak. Over to Ceci. Fires. Score! Of all people to make it 1-0. Cody Ceci with a bomb. And the Oilers score first in Game 7.
About breaking the puck out clean. Tyler Myers iced this puck. He really wasn't under much duress. And Cody Ceci, his second goal of the series, elevates this puck over the left shoulder of Artur Shilovs. A face-off win off of Canucks.
Thanks to ESPN. Later on in the period, it's 2-0 Edmonton.
Ray mentioned they look a little tired. You wonder if these miles are starting to add up. Fresh Oilers on the ice. It's Hyman protecting the puck. Going to Nugent-Hopkins. McDavid is out there. Bouchard as well. Bouchard. Wrist shot off the post and in.
Ping, pow. Wow. Yeah, wow. And you heard Ryan Nugent. Well, he got into the act as well.
Evan Bouchard will step things up. Not much movement right now from the Oilers. Here comes McDavid. Draisaitl in his spot. Best bat angle shooter in the league. Bouchard wide. Nugent-Hopkins. Score! The kid who grew up 8 miles away in Burnaby gets on the board. It's a power play goal to make it 3-0 Edmonton.
Again, thanks to ESPN, and that was in the third period. And also in the third period, Vancouver finally gets on the board.
Ability to be such a difference maker, and you want to win. You see the guys win every year, and you become envious of it. You know you've got a good team. You're like, can we get there? Can we just get a chance?
Turnover. Garland scores! It's not over yet. Connor Garland has made it 3-1.
A rare Oiler miscue tonight. And Connor Garland, who's been the best forward for the Canucks. Quick release, beats Skinner. As McLeod turned that puck over, he skated over top of it. It was a clean exit pass from Darnay.
Yeah, again, thanks to ESPN with the call. The Edmonton Oilers moving on to the conference finals, where the West will take place on Thursday night in Dallas on TNT at 8:30. The Rangers and the Panthers, by the way, begin their Eastern Conference final series tomorrow night on ESPN, beginning at 8 o'clock. All right, going to take another quick break. I want to remind everybody, to all these great cuts that I have, courtesy of Total Sports Prep, for the best articles and audio. Only one source that provides everything you need 365 days a year to satisfy your sports crave. Total Sports Prep. Staff combs through the best articles and audio so you don't have to. Our sports and non-sports kicker stories will leave you laughing all day long. To get your free trial of Total Sports Prep, you can contact them at info@sportsbroadcastingcoach.com. You see it up on the screen as well. That's info@sportsbroadcastingcoach.com. Total Sports Prep, the name says it all. Lots more to get into. Some NFL news, more NBA preview stuff. Get your thoughts. We'll update you on my poll that's out there at pshep326. Watch the show also on pshep326 on Twitter X, on my Facebook and Broad Street South Facebook and YouTube pages, Rumble, Spotify, Twitch, LinkedIn on Sports Radio 102.9. Dylan Spalding coming up at 8 o'clock. Mick Colagio at 8:30. All part of the Pete Sheppard Show on a Tuesday, live from the Naples Well Planning Studio here on the Riptide Media Network.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And, with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Okay, men, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. I know you won't, because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen.
Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick, and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
It's hour number 2, Pete Sheppard Show here live in the Naples Well Planning Studio, Riptide Media Network. 1, 2, tell me what you got. All right, it's been crazy. We find a lot of love on this show. There's a lot of love. I haven't given a lot of love today to Stephen A. Smith or ESPN, and rightly so. How could you? Except not feel embarrassed for the guy and outraged. And for some of his colleagues, I guaranteed they're sitting at home cringing like, no, God, please. This is a reflection. This is not. They should have had a closed caption. The opinions of Stephen A. do not represent everybody else who has a fair and impartial view of this game, besides the 16 numbnuts who voted who thought that the New York Knicks were going to win. Well, the phones are working. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Dylan Spalding is going to join me right now, I think. Here on the.
I'm on.
You're on. There you are. Good morning.
Good morning, gents. How are you guys today?
Fantastic.
Good, Dylan.
Good to hear. Happy to be on with you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, pleasure. So what's going on? I saw. I know you want to catch everybody up on what happened with NASCAR over the weekend. All I know is that Ricky Stenhouse is in trouble. Right? Throws a punch at Kyle Busch. What the hell's going on out there, Dylan?
Yeah, a little bit of craziness, a little bit of emotions getting shown on Sunday. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of what happened. I think that, I know that was a big moment in the weekend at North Wilkesboro, in a weekend that was just drenched with rain. If you saw any videos on Twitter, there was floods literally happening at the track. And I think that's part of it, that it's an old track, it's an older facility. They just renovated that place maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So, crazy stuff happening with Ricky Stenhouse. He came into turn 1, into turn 2, got clipped by Kyle Busch, and I understand the frustration by Ricky. He's a guy who has also had in race problems in terms of wrecking guys, and a lot of people have given him some kind of slack on it, if you will, or have kind of gave him some I really picked on him a little bit for that, and it was a very interesting moment in the weekend, and kind of really the highlight of the weekend. Although, I really think that it kind of got overblown a little bit in the media. I think that was kind of the big focus, and I understand why, but also I think we also need to focus on the race winner, who was Joey Logano, and he's also $1 million richer. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yep, being a New England guy originally, I was always root for Joey because he's one of the few New England drivers that I know. I will give Stenhouse credit, or Busch credit, because at the end Stenhouse says, "I'm going to wreck you with Charlotte," which is stupid. That's not going to solve. And Busch says, "Bring it. I suck as bad as you," because both guys are not having great seasons, right?
And Kyle, it's odd for Kyle Busch, especially given the fact that his car has had a lot of performance over the past 2 years. Joining in with RCR last season, he's really found a rhythm last year, and it seemed like Kyle Busch was on the up and up in terms of his performance kind of coming back and almost kind of getting his mojo back. When he left Joe Gibbs, things were kind of going south for Kyle Busch. Let's just say that. And it's both drivers aren't really having the greatest season. Ricky Stenhouse had a great year last year as well, winning the Daytona 500. So, it's been kind of a down year for both Stenhouse and Busch. And honestly, what Stenhouse said, it makes sense. He's a smaller team. He's a one-car operation. JTG Doherty, which is owned by Brad Doherty, they're always in conversation about maybe they're going to sell a charter, maybe they're going to bring in another car, maybe they'll lose their entire, stable of cars that they have, which is only one at the moment with Stenhouse. So, I understand why Stenhouse was angry. Kyle Busch is in a great situation with RCR, and they have all the resources to continue to put out great performances. Stenhouse can't afford to crash. He might only have one or two great performances. So we'll see what happens at Charlotte. It's going to be definitely a wild weekend if things start heating up again with Busch and Stenhouse. So I have a feeling they're not going to get into any incident. Stenhouse has too much to lose if he get into a wreck, and there may be some suspensions or fines at least that may get put out if something ends up brewing over into this weekend.
Oh, sorry. You brought up two great points there. First of all, I think you got to have a suspension for this. I think threatening to crack somebody in a race, first of all, it's stupid. Second of all, the best revenge, as people say, the best revenge is living well, or in this case, the best revenge is not causing a crash or being an a-hole, is to go win the race. That's the best revenge that he could possibly do. When you start talking about, I'm going to get you on the track and all that stuff, it's like in hockey. I'm going to go fight just to fight. Well, you don't want to do that. Get a misconduct or put a team in a bad penalty situation. Everything else. It doesn't do either one of these guys any good to threaten to crash into the other one or cause harm or damage in a race. Go win the race, right? That would be the best revenge.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, and again, it makes the sport look like a joke, right? And NASCAR is a sport that, the fan base has changed over the past several years. It's not the same like it once was in terms of the crowd levels and, the attendance. I mean, you're obviously going to get big attendance for a race like this weekend in Charlotte, which is kind of like a crown jewel weekend race for Memorial Day weekend. So, you want to go out and win races. And I honestly think I agree with you, Pete. I think that's probably your best revenge is that. I mean, again, you just get into these fights like that, and the way Stenhouse handled it a little bit, I think he went a little overboard with it. Again, it's an all-star.
Well, he announced it. He announced it, Dylan. He announced it. He announced it on Fox. I'm going to go talk to him. He said it.
Yeah.
But anyway, Dylan Spalding joined us from the Spalding Media Network. So is it possible that both of these guys might not be able to race at Charlotte this week?
I think both of them will find a way. I think Stenhouse and Busch will find a way. Listen, these things happen all the time. I mean, last year it happened with Ross Chastain a few times with Noah Gragson. That was a big deal. Both of these guys will race. There's no question. These things happen so many times and guys don't get suspended. And a lot of times NASCAR will just say, listen, this was an on-track incident that resulted in, both drivers trying to, sort things out. Obviously, it turned into a bit of a physical altercation, the video was incredible. I mean, just seeing all the chaos that was happening. Even crew members were getting involved, which I thought was a little much. And Stenhouse's dad was even involved with it as well, saying, get your hands off my son. So there was there's a lot of bad blood. I don't think the Stenhouse family is going to be having Kyle Busch over for Thanksgiving dinner at all this year, maybe.
Those crazy kids. Now, another interesting, not so fun fact for NASCAR, I think you bring it up a whole bunch of good points about what happened in Charlotte, is Joey Logano led 199 of the 200 laps. He gets $1 million. But as people are saying, some of these shorter tracks, and I know because I used to cover a couple of events in Loudon, I think that's the shortest one up in New Hampshire. Great people, all that stuff. But this is another short track, and I don't know what you do. How do they make this more exciting when one guy leads 199 out of 200 laps? That's not really good for the sport, is it?
Yeah, well, you got to remember, too, it's an all-star race. A lot of these guys are going to be a little bit more conservative. Next week's the big race, and guys look towards next week. Obviously, this weekend is cool, or this past weekend, I should say, it's a cool event given the fact that you race at a historical track in the NASCAR schedule, or what used to be in the NASCAR schedule a long time ago, but now it's made its triumphant return. I mean, some drivers take it easy. I mean, some drivers don't need the $1 million. Guys like Denny Hamlin and some of these big prominent names in the sport, they don't need $1 million. $1 million for that, and that's chump change. I mean, to say it all clearly. And, why would you wreck equipment? Again, you're only going for a little sum of money. You're better off just, saving your equipment, logging laps. It's basically an ease week for a lot of these drivers. Although, some of the maybe smaller teams, like a Stenhouse, for example, $1 million is a lot of money. That's a lot of money for a small team like Stenhouse and some of these smaller guys who, may not earn that much money in NASCAR. So, Logano leading that many laps, it's not shocking. It happened last year with Kyle Larson. To mention, by the way, Kyle Larson finished fourth in that race. I think that's incredible. What Kyle Larson is doing, running the Indy 500 and the Coke 600, he qualified in the Indy 500 starting fifth, which is incredible in his first IndyCar race. I mean, that guy is maybe the greatest modern day driver of all time. I mean, it's hard to say if there's anybody else that could top Kyle Larson and what he's been able to do. he finds ways to defy logic. I mean, he just continues to get better and better and prove everybody wrong. But, you know, again, we'll see. I mean, they just repaved the track. They had like a different tire strategy, which was kind of interesting. So we'll see what they continue to do to try to make this all-star race better. I mean, it's going to be back next year, and maybe we'll see some contact. But as of right now, I mean, it seems like, you know, if you're in first place, you're just going to dominate the race.
And finally, Dylan, as I was, I knew you were coming on, but the sport lost a big name early, I think last Wednesday or Thursday. Eddie Gossage, the longtime head of the Texas Motor Speedway, big time promoter and everything else, passed away. He was only 65 years old. He stepped down 3 years ago, president of the track in Fort Worth, Texas. So, what can you tell me about? I mean, I know how well respected he was. It's obvious. I know the name. Me being a NASCAR, just, you know, basic 101, but I know the name Eddie Gossage. How big a loss was that?
Yeah, Eddie passing away, that was huge. When we found out about him passing away, that was a pretty big deal. Obviously, he was such a huge proprietor for the sport, and especially in the Midwest. And, you know, he really kind of helped really start the growth of NASCAR in the Midwest. And yeah, it's definitely a really sad time for the Gossage family, and obviously my thoughts and prayers go out to them. I mean, you know, again, he was such a huge integral part to NASCAR, and then obviously, you know, the president of Texas Motor Speedway, which is, you know, has became a famed track. You know, they still race at that track. It's still a track that is still integral to the NASCAR schedule, even though they've gone down to one race now on the season. You know, he's a big supporter of that track, and, you know, it's definitely going to be a huge loss not having him in. There's definitely a big void that will be left without him in his presence, and yeah, definitely a shame. You never want to see anybody who's been so involved in the sport, you know, pass away and pass on. Obviously, it's life, but you know, somebody like him, it's definitely disappointing to see that news come out, and how much he did to the sport is it'll never be replicated. We'll say that.
Dylan, man, great stuff. Anything else you want to plug on the show? Great stuff.
Yeah, we got a busy week this week. Indy 500 is this weekend. Monaco F1 this weekend. We also have the Coke 600. I mean, Sunday is the greatest racing day of the year, right? You know, you got all three of the crown jewel events for three different series. It's an all-day racing event. I mean, the Indy 500 is a spectacle. So, you know, it's going to be a great weekend of racing. A lot of other good stuff on tap as well. I mean, it's going to be a busy, wild weekend. I'm going to be sitting on the laptop and on the couch, Pete. So it's going to be.
I was going to ask you, because I have a lot of friends who are huge NASCAR fans and Indy 500 fans. Like I said, I'm a casual observer, but a lot of them will lock themselves in their quote unquote man cave or their special room, their secret hiding place, with their big screen TV, and bring a cooler into the room and just sit there undisturbed. They don't want to be disturbed for a few hours and just watch by themselves. So that's kind of what your plan is too?
I think so for Sunday, with all the racing and all the good racing that's happening. That might have to be the plan for Sunday. So yeah, it's going to be a great day. I mean, the Indy 500, you know, is probably one of the greatest spectacles. I mean, it's up there with, you know, the Kentucky Derby and some of the other great events that the U.S. has to offer, and really the world has to offer. So I mean, it's going to be a really fun weekend, and it's going to be exciting. We'll see. Maybe Kyle Larson, maybe he'll win the double. Maybe he'll do it. I mean, he's had a lot of speed this week, and I've been very impressed with how he's been able to take into an IndyCar.
Excellent stuff, Dylan. Thanks so much. And we're going to be off on Monday, but let's check in on Tuesday as well and get your thoughts and recap on a great racing weekend.
Absolutely, Pete. Guys, thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.
All right, Dylan.
Dylan Spalding joining us. And what is he? Is he on the East Coast?
He is right down the street from me, literally.
From you?
Yeah. We live less than about I want to say 5 miles from each other.
Oh, sweet. Penguin AZ says, good morning, Angel and Riptide Media.
Good morning, Penguin AZ. By the way, and I want to ask Dylan a question, but...
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. This is the reason why I had to mute my mic, because I don't. This new.
Was that the grass cutter again?
Oh,
Usually I don't hear it, but that's twice now in a week. That's not a big deal.
No. But the problem.
What are you going to do? Yeah, I mean, you just got to do it. Trust me, when I worked from home a few years ago during COVID, trust me, same thing used to happen. And I was sort of away in the den, and you could, when I was at Penn International, and you could still hear on Tuesdays and Thursdays when they not only last like 5 minutes, but nevertheless, it seems like a lot longer. I know.
Yeah, well, the problem was that there was the one guy's on a mower. I don't mind it because they, for the most part, they do a pretty good job. But the other guy with the weed whacker, now the first guy came through and he's edging, right? So listen, folks, this is men, okay?
Problems in Tampa.
Yeah. So this guy comes with a weed whacker. Now it's crabgrass. Those who don't know, here in Florida, most of us down here live off of crabgrass because you can't grow natural stuff. They even have a hard time over there at Ray J. So the guy came edging on the sidewalk, which normally that's what he do. But this other genius, he must be a new guy. Sorry, I'm calling him a genius, but he comes through and he's weed whacking the side of the crabgrass that's barely there because we've had absolutely no rain whatsoever except for last week.
Yeah.
So you can kind of tell where the boss is going. What do you think you're doing? Like you can, I can make out the words looking here on the side of what these two geniuses are doing, but God bless. Nonetheless, thank him for what you do.
Oh my goodness. Mick Elijah are going to join me at the bottom of the hour. I do want to give you a little heads up, a little preview. The Florida Panthers at the New York Rangers. I think there's going to be a terrific series. I think it's going 7. And congratulations to the Dallas Stars. They won the other day, so they'll be hosting Edmonton in Game 1 on Thursday in the Western Conference Finals. So at the end of last week, New York, Boston, Denver, and Dallas all had their basketball and hockey teams still in it. And then there was one, that being the great city of Dallas. The Stars and the Mavericks are left. Knicks are out. Bruins are out. Nuggets and Avalanche are out. Boo-hoo. Okay, football season cannot start soon enough for Denver Bronco fans. Yep. Guy says, morning, fellas. Glad to hear you guys again. Yeah, I had a little travel issue yesterday. That's all right. Back. By the way, those of you who missed my tirade on Stephen A. Smith and ESPN, we will play the embarrassing stuff again in the 9 o'clock hour afterwards. Mick Elijah are going to join me in just a few minutes talking Stanley Cup playoffs. I want to give you a little preview. Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers. Florida head coach Paul Maurice on 5 days of rest. He says that's okay.
Really good because and we got 2 days in front of Game 6, which helped us too. So we've been able to, and then because it does go to Game 6, then the window on the other side's not too long. So we've actually been able to run the same 2-day structure on and off the ice going in. So it's kind of it's routine for us now. But real good jump there today. Almost you got to be careful because they'll run today. You could go an hour hard here today, and they would have got all of it. So we pulled them back a little bit. They were good today.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to comment Monday on what happened to my Bruins on Friday night, and it's kind of a microcosm of their season. Played hard, played tough, had plenty of chances, lose 2-1. I thought the game was going overtime in the last 90 seconds of the game. They gave it up. Can't say enough about Swayman. The one thing, Jim Montgomery's probably going to lose his job, which I hate saying it, except for this stat. When you have 6 too many men on the ice penalties, it has not been that bad since Dave Lewis, who's a nice man, used to live in my neighborhood in the North End when I lived there, but was probably arguably one of the worst coaches in NHL history. Just absolutely horrific. And they had like 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 of those in the season. When you have a whole bunch of them in one series or or combined in the postseason, that's bad. That is coaching. Now, that being said, the Bruins, if they keep most of the core players on this team, they have just got to change the philosophy. And I can't believe it. It's a coaching philosophy. The coaching philosophy is not to keep making the extra pass, which the Bruins are guilty of time and time again. Instead of shooting, shoot the puck. They are in such great position to at least try to get good quality shots on net. And they always, or too many times make that extra pass. And I don't think that's on Jim Montgomery. I just think sometimes that's been the mentality of some of the players. And even when Claude Julien was coaching this team, when they won the Stanley Cup, And even, a couple years later, they were in the finals again against the Blackhawks and just shoot the puck. Sometimes you got to be selfish in sports. You got to be selfish. So, but I think Jim Montgomery might be losing his job because of all those too many men on the ice penalties there. Okay, more from Paul Maurice says, bad players cheat and great players anticipate. Okay.
The reads, the sticks, the times, penalty kill to be aggressive or not be aggressive. They're equally gifted offensively and defensively. That's a very rare thing. I mean, for Sam Reinhart to put up those goals to get into that range, you've got to anticipate some plays, and sometimes you're going to be wrong, but you just don't see them on the video being wrong on a play you anticipated, and it's in your net, right? The other way they describe that is cheating. Great average players cheat, great players anticipate. It's the same decision, just one's right, one gets it done, right? So there's none of that in either man's game, which is fantastic leadership from a coach's point of view. Like, you don't have to pull teeth to get your players to defend hard because they got to sit on the same bench as those two guys.
Yeah, and you still go back to the Sam Bennett hit on Marchand, the cheap shot on Marchand, and then the goaltending interference that happened that never should have allowed that goal. But, you know, and so we move on. Florida, overall was the better team in the series, but it just a bad call here, a bounce there. But that's the Stanley Cup playoffs. Meanwhile, Florida, Sasha Barkov on how the Panthers got through the last round against the Bruins.
I think just the way we play, like our style of game and stuff, like our intensity and how hard we play, like that was the key for us. Like, we just never stopped. We kept pushing, kept doing our thing, and I think that helped us to win.
On the Rangers side, head coach Peter Laviolette, Mick's cousin, who's coming on in a few minutes, on teams being disappointed.
Well, I was saying that last round. I was saying that no matter what, some teams probably disappointed, right? Because their seasons, if you finish in, fifth or third or sixth or whatever it might be, there's going to be teams that'll be disappointed, and it is a competitive. A lot of teams, you make the moves, you have a great year, you make the moves to try and win that, try and get to the final round and win the cup. And just looking at last round, there's going to be disappointment for organizations, and so it's really good 8 teams last round, one remaining to be done here, but then a really good Final Four as well, regardless of who wins tonight.
All right, that's Peter Laviolette, the head coach of the Rangers. We'll hear a little bit more from him later on. Quick break. Mick Colagio talking Stanley Cup, Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals coming up here on the Pete Sheppard Show, live from the Naples Wealth Planning Studio right here on the Riptide Media Network.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding. Whoa! Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Back here at this Big Sheppard Show, it's Tuesday. We're getting fired up. You know why? Because my man, one of the best hockey writers in the country, always fair and impartial. Never has these stupid, idiotic takes like Stephen A. Smith does before Game 7 on ABC. No, Michelangelo would never, ever do that. He always remains fair and impartial and tells it like it is. That's why I love him. And tonight I want you to love Michelangelo too. Welcome, Mick. Good morning. One of the best hockey writers in the country. As you know, I brag about him all the time. He should be on NHL Network. He should be on ESPN. No, he's too good for ESPN. He should be on NHL Network at the very least. Michelangelo from rinkrapmc.com, bostonhockeynow.com. He's on a plethora of podcasts throughout New England and around the country. Mick, good morning. How are you?
Great to see you, Pete. I used to say great to hear from you, but this has become a more like television.
Yeah, well, that's where the business is going. And anybody not doing this, you're missing the boat. You know, if you're capable of doing it, but that's what this business has come down to, and that's why we love working. I love working here at Riptide Media Network. If you don't have a video platform nowadays, then you're in trouble, as you've seen some of our terrestrial radio friends and companies. But we digress. Before we get into your cousin and the New York Rangers and coming up against the Florida Panthers, which I think is going to be one hell of a series. I was off yesterday, didn't get a chance, but I did want to get your thoughts, and I know you wrote, I read one of your stories. It was fantastic about where the Bruins are now. My gut feeling was, you know me, I don't like calling for coaches to be fired or anything like that. I think the Bruins, on their own terms, sort of shot themselves in the foot by being too unselfish, because they just don't shoot the puck enough when they have quality chances, and that's not the first time I'm saying. However, when I see all the too many men on the ice penalties, Mick, it reminded me of Dave Lewis, God forbid, back in the day. Nice man, but horrible coach. They had I think 11 or 12 that season. What have they had? The Bruins had 6 or 7 during this playoff run here. That usually is on coaching. I know from time to time a guy might come off the bench and the puck might hit him in the skate or something like that, and they get called for it. But two-part question: how Jim Montgomery, is he going to keep his job? And 2, these too many men on the ice penalties, how much is it his fault or the coaching staff's fault during this playoff series with the Bees?
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. A lot there to unpack, as they say in the corporate world nowadays. I'll start with too many men on the ice. For older Bruins fans, that's particularly painful. If that's how you're going down, kill me any other way. But, May 10th, 1970, Bobby Orr goes flying through the air. 9 years later, May 10th, 1979, is the infamous too many men in the ice game at Montreal. And they did it again in 2010 against Philadelphia. So this year, I mean, somebody's got to be the worst, and it happened to be the Bruins. Why does this happen to them over and over and over again? I don't know. It didn't never seem to be the same thing every time. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, damn, they keep on shooting the puck at their bench during wholesale line changes on the fly. I've seen Dennis Weidman do that to the Bruins, I mean, when he played for them, but it's pretty rare that you see. I mean, it's great play by the opponent, but I don't think that was really ever the reason this happened. There was never any one thing you could pinpoint. So I think it's pretty much just something that kind of got inside there. It became a little point of nervousness too, and then lo and behold, it happens again. So there may be something that they'll identify through the watching a video, absent of the harder decisions of the series, that will allow them to see something emerging there. But I don't know what it is. The one thing I'll say about the Bruins and all their missed opportunities, and there were several great A's in Game 6 that they left on the table to extend what was a 2-0 lead, is that I think that when a team has you in your own zone and outshoots you and outchances you for so long, and it's such a hard time, you're relying so heavily on your goaltender, that when you finally get your chance, sometimes it comes with a whirlwind of energy in an overtime game and a team steals a game, the way like Providence College in 2015 against Denver in the zone series when they had Danton Heinen and Montgomery was their coach. They really should have beaten Providence, and they had them hemmed in the whole game while Providence goes and gets one of those chances. Anyway, the bottom line is I think the Bruins, when they finally did get those chances, they knew how precious they were. They gripped their sticks a little hard. That's not a formula for winning. I don't think that any team can expect to win when you play so much of the game in your own end. And that is where the Florida Panthers' physicality comes in. They're basically like the New Jersey Devils 25 years later. That's what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
And the team has everything. And I thought from the beginning of the season, from before the season, that they really, kind of got screwed last year by being made to wait 10 days to play the Vegas Golden Knights. And and while Vegas really impressed me in the final, I didn't feel like it was a fair series, and I didn't feel like it was a good series. They were in a 2-0 hole before they even got played a good hockey game. And now I feel like we're going to finally see if the Florida Panthers can take the last step, because they've been building toward this. And for a few years, the Bruins are a team in transition. They had to let go to the generational centerman that gave them almost 20 years of hockey, and replace them and some high elite free agent signings with a hodgepodge of contracts that are meant to be just transitional. And what they accomplished in this situation when they were so overly matched at the center position in this series, to me, is admirable. What the Bruins did for a season and what they did in the playoffs and knocking out Toronto again, And then, a team that hates losing to them and thought they were finally going to do it. And then they, could make it go 6. It was a long series. It was a hard fought series. All respect for the Bruins about what they accomplished in this season. It wasn't supposed to be this good. So now we got a hell of a series because the Rangers are going to be a much more. They got technicians.
Yeah,
Fox, Kreider, Zibanejad, Trocheck. These guys, they move the puck offensively in a superior manner to the Boston Bruins. And they're a well-oiled machine as a forward group. The question is can the Rangers withstand the physicality that's going to be unleashed on them by the Florida Panthers? And that's really going to be where the series lies. If it turns into like I said about the Carolina series, if it turns into a ticky-tack parade to the penalty box, then I give the Rangers a much better chance because in situations, they're really money. But if it's a 5-on-5 grind and that's what dominates the series, I got to give the edge to Florida.
No question. Before we get back into that series and then last night's game with Edmonton and Vancouver and then coming up with Dallas and Edmonton in the Western Conference Finals, your closing thoughts on what Don Sweeney said at the end and some of the players. And I agree with you about this team quote unquote overachieved this year, but they started off so hot again and then nearly
14-1-3.
Yeah, nearly had the President's Trophy in their sights once again, considering. So I'm sure fans up there are pissed and they don't want to hear we overachieved. And I get that. I understand that. But I'm with you on this. They absolutely overachieved. And if they had a bounce here, a bounce there, or Sam Bennett didn't get that goaltending interference call, who knows what could have happened even the other night, Friday night, get to go 90 seconds before going into overtime, then who knows? Maybe we're talking that they get to Game 7. But how should Bruins, in all reality, Bruins fans should be sort of pleased how the season went, shouldn't they?
Thrilled. They should be happy as they stand by the Bobby Orr statue in the plaza outside North Station, taking their photos. And you know something? That was the vibe I got as I left. I mean, granted, I hung around a lot longer after the final game, and that leaving the building, the people who were still hanging around, they were realistic. They weren't distraught. I didn't see anybody, drunken stupor shouting at no one. There was none of that. I mean, I've seen that before. Yeah, well, I mean,
I was at my sister's house too.
I wasn't drinking Crystal Geyser. I was up here drinking Poland Spring.
Not Crystal Geyser.
I wasn't shopping at Publix, Pete.
Oh yeah, it was absolute and club soda for the record, by the way.
Okay, we all have our thing.
So what do you think? What do you think after the post game and Don Sweeney's thoughts and some of the players' thoughts and what direction are they going to head into here? What's this team going to look like, you think, next year?
Well, I think they're going to go get a centerman, and I think Elias Lindholm, who lost last night with the Vancouver Canucks, is the kind of centerman that they'll be targeting. And then another guy that's been whose profile is starting to rise where it concerns this issue is Martin Necas of the Carolina Hurricanes. He's a big, strong kid who kind of is sort of phased out over there, So, but I think he's UFA, so I think he might be like a signing. Whereas, actually, Lindholm's a rental too. So, if I got that right, I think I do. I'm not sure.
I think you do too.
I don't have Cap Friendly up here. But I think that there's going to be a signing like that. There'll be a centerman who I think that what you're going to see here is that the Bruins are going to say that, look, we left some stuff on the table. We're not a shot volume team under Jim Montgomery. We're a puck possession team. But it's hard to possess the puck when Charlie Coyle is your only center who can monster it. I mean, he's the only guy who can protect the puck in the middle of the rink for your team. They wound up moving Pavel Zacha back to wing. They never had Matty Poitras at the end of the season because his rookie season was interrupted by a shoulder injury that required surgery and shut him down. So, will they be back? Will they be looked at again in those positions? Absolutely, especially Poitras. But Coyle, to his credit, was he was a beast. And he was a great player for the Bruins. He really elevated when they needed him to in the absence of Bergeron and Krejci. And I'd say that Morgan Geekie performed admirably in the plumber's role, similarly to what Chicago did to Boston in 2013 when they put Michael Handzus in the second center position behind Jonathan Toews. And you got a plumber back there between two beautiful hockey players, Marian Hossa and Patrick Kane. And so for them to create a second line in that middle of that Stanley Cup final and but leave it to Q. But anyway, that's the kind of thing the Bruins know. They missed it in their breakout game. They missed that kind of glue from Bergeron and Krejci in their breakout game. They missed it in the offensive end when it came to making winning plays. And the faceoffs were a problem for them from time to time. At times they're okay. At times they weren't. And, I'd like to see a left shot, unless they're really confident that Johnny Beecher can be their left shot D-zone fourth line center for D-zone draws in that right wing circle, so he can draw to the corner on the backhand. They got hurt with some of those, and Zaka was their guy. They lost a ton of them. And even if you don't get scored on, the puck's back in your zone for another extended shift. And not only does that mean that team has a chance to score on you, it means that the guys that you had on the ice aren't going to get anything going that shift. And a lot of times that was the Bruins' best players. So, they did great. Pasternak performed wonderfully for the Bruins. He was terrific. You look at the stats and you say, well, I did nothing. No, they covered him like a blanket.
Yeah,
they took him, but he still was a great player because of what he did to elevate other players and make them better in those situations. So, no complaints from Boston, really. They shouldn't.
The one, and I'm sure because everybody always has to put the piece of the blame pie on somebody, and I'm sure Charlie McAvoy has taken a lot of abuse. He did not have a great series against Florida at all, except for one was a game. Whenever he had the goal and the assist, whatever game that was.
Yeah, he did. I think it was game 6. I think it was game 5 in Florida. Yeah,
but he had a lot of those tennis. You're a big tennis guy too, obviously, former professional, still professional rep. He had a lot of those unforced error turnovers that I cannot stand, that led to goals. He did not. He needed to play better, and I'm not blaming him for the reason why they lost, but he was part of the problem. He had I thought overall, a very bad series against.
I think it can boil down Charlie McAvoy's postseason to the fact that he was trying to be Scott Stevens and be Scott Niedermayer, and you can't be both. Mm-hmm. And he needs a partner that I would love to see a player like Jeff Chikrin partner with him, but I'm almost certain after this playoff that the guy you're going to see partner with Charlie McAvoy next regular season is Mason Lohrei, because he's like a bigger Matt Grzelcyk. He's got Matt Grzelcyk's into skating and puck handling skills, and he's a bigger body. And so they're going to give that a long look and see how it goes, and have Lindholm more in a shutdown role with Brandon Carlo, and see how they can match up forwards with D's and see how they can go forward that way. So you know what? At the end of the day, though, they got to trend their team toward. They got to take opportunities to trend their team toward being a more violent, forechecking, physical presence kind of team that gets to the soft dumps, hits defensemen, and puts a hurt on them, and changes the course of a series through the bumps and bruises that those D's accumulate. They targeted McAvoy both series. Those guys went after Charlie because they know how good he is, and they want to try to break him down. And to some extent, they succeeded. He wound up taking a couple dumb penalties. He wound up turning over a couple of pucks. And that's basically the game plan. If you play the Boston Bruins, you basically hit the crap out of McAvoy. Not because you're going to discourage him. I mean, Barry Trotz gave him a very long hug after the Islanders did everything legal and some illegal things to him during that series in 21. Yeah. But that's really how you beat the Bruins, is try to break down their best player. And you take away Pasternak like a basketball game because they have no center position beyond Coyle. And then you take away, you do what you do and it worked. And it still was a long, hard fought series. Mm-hmm. That's why I tip my hat to the Boston Bruins, because in this situation where they were at a very substantial disadvantage, I thought they still played great. And I'm not down on McAvoy at all. I think he's lacked the right kind of partner. And I'm not sure that Lowry is it, but it'll be better for a full season than anything he's had in his career to this point, since Zdeno Chara could still play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not down on McAvoy at all. He's a great player. He's one of my favorite players on the team. Not even. I was a tad disappointed, but you make all great points. Speaking of disappointed, well, you talk about a team. Did the Vancouver Canucks overachieve in this postseason? And Rick Tocchet did an amazing job. Guy used to.
I don't know. That West is so close.
But Buffaloes are being out last night. As soon as I saw that, and it's scary.
Yeah,
issue I get blood clotting issue. I get a big red. It sounds like it's not. That can lead to some serious complications if it's not dealt with properly. But once he was out, and I picked Edmonton to win the series in 7 anyway, but still, Vancouver fought right till the very end. Last 90 seconds were crazy.
They were. I was able to start seeing that game at just the right time. I only saw the final period, so I saw the push. And it looked at 3-0 like it was going to be an empty net, and 4-0 like 2011. And I'm thinking, oh, these poor Vancouver fans, is going to be so devastating for them. They're going to have a Game 7 at home, and this is how they're going to lose another Game 7 at home. And it's going to remind them, and then people are going to talk about it. It's going to be awful. And instead, they rallied. Quinn Hughes, amazing hockey player. I usually really give a hairy eyeball to young puck-moving defensemen, but he is a sturdy defender, a great two-way hockey player, and if he wins the Norris Trophy, he deserves it. So I really like that team now. I like an awful lot about them. I didn't think JT Miller was 100%. There was something off about him. He just looked to me like he wasn't the guy that he had been for most of the season, who really just sort of dragged everyone into the fight. And he just didn't seem like, it seemed like there was something. When they have their breakup day, I bet you JT Miller has something he's going to be talking about, physically, because he looked to me like it wasn't all there for him, which really, and he's the guy, he's their body puncher, up front. Mm-hmm. So he's their Sam Bennett. So, that's he's really elevated his profile in the NHL this past season. And, that's a good hockey team going forward with some tweaks. They're not far off. It's impressed by them and impressed by Edmonton that they reached a point now where they can shut out a team in a Game 7 on the road to win a playoff series. Now, granted, they didn't shut them out, but they had to hold on for dear life. But it really was a shutout performance until it was too deep a hole, is what it proved to be. And Connor McDavid never factored. So as on the stat sheet, that is. So for them to get to that point reminds me of when the Edmonton Oilers of the early 80s became the Edmonton Oilers of the mid 80s. Mm-hmm. And they were the team that could beat the Islanders in Game 2 at the Coliseum 1-0.
1-0.
When that happened, I was like, uh-oh, because until then they just felt like the Islanders were everybody's daddy. And, and now when they won that game 1-0 in New York, it's kind of like, if they can win this kind of hockey game against this team right now and go home up 2-0, they're going to win this thing. And they never look back.
Either Netflix, somebody is doing. You mentioned Bruins Canucks in 2011 finals, Game 7. Bees won 4-0. And I want to get to your experience after, because somebody is doing a documentary on what happened in that playoff series. I want to say it's in ESPN 30 for 30. It could be a Netflix thing, but it was all about that series. And I will never forget it. When I was on in Boston, you came on with me the following day, and you were describing what you were witnessing as people were literally and figuratively burning down the city. And you were driving through it, trying to get to California, right, to catch a flight.
Well, actually, my flight was in Seattle.
Oh, Seattle.
I had to return a rental to Seattle.
That was one of the most frightening conversations, and I could hear it in your voice. I mean, that was unbelievable. That you should, whoever's doing this documentary, you should be a part of it.
You know what? I'll tell you this. Rich Garvin of the Worcester Telegram, Chris Hurley, who you may remember from the North Shore Weeklies. He now writes for the Lowell Sun. The three of us, 1 hour after the Bruins won that game, the Bruins were back in the locker room still talking to reporters. And they stopped running the shuttles. So we're thinking, okay, how do we get up? Can anybody get a cab? No.
Oh, geez.
You have to walk up the hill. It was 12 blocks uphill in Vancouver to the hotel.
Oh, my God.
So we're thinking, okay, what do? We can walk it. You guys ready? You going to huff it? You're going to do it? Yeah, sure. Rich Garvin, he runs like, I don't know, 10 miles a day, for fun. So, he's like a little marathoner. And so Hurley and I were up for it. We did it, So we started going up. We go 1 block and we run into the riot squad.
Oh, Jesus.
And we say, okay, what do we do? And they're like, okay, go 1 or 2 blocks this way and then go back up the hill. I think you'll be fine. Well, they were right, but the situation was also evolving so that by the time we were about halfway up that hill, we were wrong. So we ran into, you could see on the left-hand side, more toward the center of the city, this light coming out from between the buildings, and then it sounded like construction and bells ringing. And I'm waiting, and all of a sudden people come pouring out of it, and their eyes are like going both directions as they're running. Like, I don't know which way I'm going, but I'm going 60 miles an hour. And I'm thinking, what's coming next? Godzilla? So we started breaking into a jog, and we're going up the hill, and we had to do this twice on all uphill. Twice we had to break into jogs to go up the hill. And by the time we got to the hotel, they had stopped serving food at the NHL party, the after media party. They had stopped serving food, but there was still, alcohol.
Yeah.
They still had that. So,
of course.
So, but I was there. I was, sweat spots all over my t-shirt, my polo, and it's I looked like I just played golf in hot weather, and so sat there at a high top stood there at a high top with Dave Gosher and talked about his radio call, and Andy Brickley was there, and Andy Brickley gave Rich a little lesson on how important it is to play without the puck, and and it was just a fun conversation, and seeing all the All-Star Canadian reporters as I was walking in, and they're all there already there, guys like Darren Drager, and it was just fun to kind of like, and it ended that way, and my good friend and mentor Kevin Dupont from the Globe, he offered to let me stay in his in the suite that the company rented, and so I had myself a free room. And so he was long gone by the time I got up that morning. I left in my rental and drove out of the garage, and it's a sunny day and it's beautiful. And did last night really ever happen? The hockey, the celebration, the being on the ice with Claude Julien asking me, Mick, did you think we were a championship team? And then me going like, oh my God, how do I answer this one? He goes, he's like, what? No words? Because that was the promo. No words, So. Anyway, it was just a memorable night that I will never ever forget.
But I remember you being in the car when we talked on the air.
That's correct. So when I finally got on the highway, and I'm about 20 minutes out of Vancouver, and I'm not too far from the Border Patrol, and as I'm driving along, that's where we were and where we were speaking. I just remember there was a lot of tall grass, a lot of phragmites on the other side of me as I'm going through that swampy area. It's a little like going to Montreal. If you drive to Montreal in the Vermont mountains end, and then all of a sudden everything gets flat, and then the city begins to emerge between other mountains. You see the little cityscape. Right. Vancouver looks just like that from the south. It looks just like you kind of going sideways before you turn toward the city in the home stretch, and it's amazing how much it reminds me of Montreal. So as I was on my way out, and it was a sunny day, and I'm thinking, okay, I have plenty of time to get my car down to Seattle and get my flight. And the only thing that was adventurous from that point forward was the descent into Washington, D.C. There was a thunderstorm must have reached like 40,000 feet high, because going through the show, dropping down through all of that and looking at it, I felt like I was on another planet, like it was something I'd never seen before. So it was quite I'll never forget it. June 15th, 2011.
Amazing. Angel,
Hard to
you
believe
have
it.
something you want to ask Mick? Angel Martinez.
Yes, Mick, as always, thank you. I can listen to you all day with the stories that you share back and forth with Pete. But I have a quick question for you. Since the NFL now has found a way to get themselves in with Netflix for the Christmas game, could we possibly see the same thing with the NHL in the future?
Right now, it's blowing my mind how many things that are going on in these regards, and I would absolutely expect that something like that will happen. In fact, during this season, the NHL continued to develop new partnerships that they
Cinemax.
announced.
They're on Max.
Yeah, right. So Max, and here's the thing that that I will say that is not really a victory for the fans of hockey in my mind is you can buy. If you're a streamer, you can buy Nessun 360 for $30 a month, and you get it 1 month off if you buy the whole year, right? So I buy like 7 months now because I don't really have time to follow the Red Sox day in and day out, but I love going to a baseball game or listening on the radio when I'm in the car. I only do the 7 months, so because your local TV doesn't have the NHL beyond the opening round of playoffs. So with that in mind, you think you're going to get every game. You paid the piper, whether you got Nessun through your cable system or whether you got it through streaming services and you paid. But no, there's a few select games during the season. They're exclusively on ESPN Plus and Hulu.
Yeah.
This is an NHL thing. So now you have to buy that. So you buy that. Now they're going to try to start doing other things that they keep on moving the goalposts so that good faith people who are putting out premium money to make sure that they can follow their hockey team throughout the whole season are being told on certain nights, no, you can't have this game. They're playing on a Tuesday night in Buffalo. It's just a regular season game and there's a storm and you just want to sit home and watch the damn hockey game and you can't get it because you don't have this. It's really annoying. And if I have a complaint today, that would be it. To say that while the NHL is going on all these different platforms, they should be ticketing. They should be free ticketing the fans who are already proven their loyalty, like season ticket holders, should get automatic passage into these kinds of games. And if you want to say, come beat your chest and say, yeah, we're taking over the world. Well, you know what? They keep on taking their own fans for granted. That's what they keep on doing. And this was the case when they started gimmicking up the game following the lockout year because they didn't care what their own fans thought. They only cared whether new fans would watch it. It's just like advertising in corporate world and anything. It even says in the little white letters at the bottom of the screen, existing customers, screw you. It's just the opposite of what customer service was back in the day.
Well, to your point, I mean, we all were subscribers to Sports Illustrated back in the day. All the stupid little phones. Yeah, so was I.
They kept giving you a better deal to extend, so I did.
Yeah, but we never got any of the perks, like the stupid little phone to the football. The little prizes. Why not granted? We got nothing. The more loyal you were, the least you got. You got nothing. They never.
Well, they were ahead of their time.
No, they absolutely were. Oh, Mick, great stuff as always. And so, what's next?
What's next? A couple of great conference finals.
Your prediction on both?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I like Dallas. I thought that Dallas was too broken down. I thought Ben was too broken down. I thought Sagan was too broken down. I thought Pavelski was my grandfather. And what I am so impressed by is the way those guys have held up to allow them to be, believe it or not, supporting cast to the emerging core of Rupi, to Wyatt Johnston, this phenom. And obviously Jason Robinson, who's kind of like Luke Robitaille, 30 years later. So it's really impressive what the Dallas Stars are doing. And because I already knew they had an elite D-core. Ottinger is a good goalie, but their D-core is superior. It's an excellent top three. It's an excellent top 4 or 5. And I thought that they weren't going to match up at forward, similarly to the Bruins, how they didn't. And right now, I'd say that I'm wrong about Dallas's forwards, and that to me, they're eligible. They could win this thing. I think Edmonton, categorically, I don't think they're as deep I do think they're awesome, but I don't know if they got everything they need. I like Dallas very slightly in this semifinal, and I still like Florida very slightly. I think the Rangers are going to be challenged physically because Florida knows that they don't have skill advantages in any place on the ice against these guys, except maybe center position. Zibanejad and Trocheck is their 1-2, and those guys are really skilled. But Barkov and Bennett, Barkov is a beast. And you can't knock that man off the puck. If he's serious, you're in trouble. And Bennett, as we all know, is a caterpillar. So and I like the wings in Florida. So so really, the Panthers to me are still the team that really projects forward through this thing. But I do think that. I don't feel like any of these teams. I feel like the four correct teams are in this thing. I don't feel like we got a Cinderella here anymore, and I don't feel like there's any team here with a fatal flaw. I don't feel like we have a team with a hole here. I do feel like we have a team with everyone has a great big three defense, or they have a great 1-2 center punch, and some of them almost have both. And so right now, from a structural standpoint, foundational standpoint, I think we have four worthy semifinalists, and and it's just going to be funny how this thing goes. Who knows?
Mick, great stuff as always. Mick Colagio from rinkrapmc.com, bostonhockeynow.com, and you're on everybody's. You're America's favorite hockey guest, all over the New England area and all over the country. Great stuff as always, Mick. Enjoy. And if your cousin Peter Laviolette throws you any scoops for some reason, I'm sure you'll hand him down to me.
And that'll be a no and a no. We have an agreement. He asked me very early on in our association, once he knew that what I did for a living. He was like, "Are you asking me as a reporter?" And once we got through that part, it was pretty easy. So I'd say, "No, I'm asking you as I'm just asking you to. If we're in the arena, I'm a reporter. If we're at a cookout in the summer and I ask him a question, then he knows that the answer is never meant for the record."
Absolutely. All right, Mick, you're the man. Thanks so much, and we'll definitely talk again. And I'm so excited for the Stanley Cup playoffs as they continue. And we'll talk next week, my friend. Thank you so much.
Sounds great, Pete. Take care, Angel.
Yeah, ready. Dennis says, Mick Colagio, America's favorite hockey guest. We need to get him on one of the local radio stations as a regular guest. Well, he is in Boston. He's occasionally on up there as well, Dennis. But he's not on enough, and he should be on the NHL Network a lot. That's where he should be. All right, we're a little overdue, but who cares? It's my show, and Angel is awesome. And we are going to come back and do some more. We're going to preview Game 1 tonight with the Celtics and the Indiana Pacers. Got some Caitlin Clark highlights / lowlights from her game last night. Indiana Fever. They lost again. Not totally unexpected though. And she got hurt in that game, but came back. But we'll have all the highlights for you as well. And a lot of some NFL news to tell you about also, especially T. Higgins. That's the big story so far. Is not showing up at OTAs for the Cincinnati Bengals. So that being said, quick break here. It is the Pete Sheppard Show. We are live from the Naples Wealth Planning Studio right here on the Riptide Media Network.
Hey, Dad. Your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad. Your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend.
Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Okay, men. This is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping. Cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. No, you won't. Because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Network phone number to call or text 727-858-6650. Also, don't forget you can watch the show, an incredible Riptide Media Network video platform. Watch me on Twitter X at pshep326, on the Facebook, my Facebook and Broad Street South Facebook and YouTube pages, Spotify, Twitch, Rumble, LinkedIn, of course, on Sports Radio 102.9. Thanks to Mick Colagio for that outstanding interview earlier today, and you can talk to him all week long. Absolutely fantastic.
You got to text in a comment.
Gas Pump Guy said, I think as much as I hate to say it, the Panthers and the Stars will be in the Stanley Cup Finals. Well, I'm picking Edmonton in Florida. I picked Edmonton before that, but it was that's going to be. I think both series go 7, and 6-5 and pick them. Good luck with that. I think both teams can win on the road. I mean, all 4 teams can win on the road, so that won't be an issue. Anywho. Jamie says, great interview, Pete. You found someone who loves talking almost as much as you. Well, but I know that's going to happen. I set him up because he has some great insight. Oh, okay. We told you earlier we were going to preview the Celtics and the and Indiana in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight at TD Garden. Should be a great series. I'm picking the Celtics in 6. But, Angel, I just tweeted out, this is what I've been talking about on Get Up. And Alan Hahn and others. The Celtics are in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. And I used to feel this way a lot with the Patriots. People, because they get so spoiled that if they don't win the championship, then it's a bad year, even if they advance in the playoffs. And there were a couple times they got upset in the first round, once by Baltimore in 2009 and then by the Jets the next year. So it's happened. But but I want to. This is what I'm talking about here. On Get Up a little while ago, talking about
epic failure.
Hang on.
Yeah, play the video. Greenberg is there along with Alan Hahn and Monica McNutt, and so here it is. This is what I'm talking about here.
Right. This is an epic failure if the Celtics don't win the championship this year. You cannot.
That's a different conversation.
No, it's
Celtics
not.
versus Tatum is a two different conversations. He's talking about Tatum kicking the door down. The Celtics as an organization, yes. That's also Joe Mazzulla. That's Brad Stevens. That's other guys on that team as well. That is the pressure. But individually on Jason Tatum, we can't put him in the category of LeBron James. I don't even think he has the it factor that Luka Doncic has. He has had 50-point game sevens. He's had 40-point game sixes to save the season. He's also had game threes where he fumbles away the series down 0-2 when you're like, dude, you're the best player on the team. You got to carry the team. Maybe he's just not that guy. He's a great player, but not a super like that level kind of player.
Hold on a second. This is an epic.
Okay. Well, look, a lot of what Alan Hahn says there is true.
Would it be an epic failure?
But see, that's the problem I have, Angel, is that people are going to look at it that way. They've got an excellent basketball team. This is one of the best teams in the Celtics, top to bottom, in my lifetime. It just is that I have seen. 86 to me is the greatest team of all time in the NBA. They had obviously since then the 08 team was excellent. In 2010 they nearly won it. Had Perk not gotten hurt, they probably would have. But as far as I put this team up there with one of the great Celtics teams of all time, the Celtics of 84 and 86, even 81, the first title they got with Bird. Was a really good team. I think this team is better than the 81 team, top to bottom overall. I really do. So it's like I said, they could play whoever they play, Minnesota or Dallas in the finals, assuming they get past Indiana. No matter what they do, if they win 4 straight and by 40, it won't matter. If they win in 7. Against Minnesota or Dallas, it won't matter. But people will still. Some of these guys will still complain because they didn't win by enough, or they should have disposed of them early on. Which the NBA doesn't work that way. It just doesn't matter from the narrative. The national perspective is if they don't win the championship, it's a fail. It's an epic fail. Yeah, I'll be very disappointed. I'd be very disappointed if they didn't. Assuming Porzingis can play most of it. Even without him against Indiana, I think he's going to miss the first 2 games. I think the Celtics should be able to win this series in 6 games. I really do, because I do think their defense will absolutely come into play. And it'll certainly come into play in the other series with Minnesota and Dallas. You talk about the 3 the best defenses left in the NBA, Minnesota, Celtics, and Dallas. But Indiana's going to win. They're going to win a game or 2. They're going to shoot the lights out of the basket in one of these games. I have no doubt about it. It might even, I don't know. Maybe it's tonight. I don't know. The Celtics on home court, as we know, what are they? 16-15 or 15-15, whatever it is. If the Pacers shoot 67% like they did Sunday, no one's going to beat them. But I don't expect that. Halliburton's averaging 20.1 points per game. But the overall thing, before I get into some of the numbers, is the Celtics are in a damned if you do, damned if you don't. And it's too bad. That's a ton of pressure. Tatum and Brown do a lot of the heavy lifting through 10 playoff games. Tatum is averaging 24.3 points and 10.4 rebounds. Brown's averaging 23.1 points and 6.6 rebounds per game in the postseason. Now, if they keep that up, that should absolutely happen. But I don't think Jason Tatum has to be a triple-double guy, or he doesn't have to score 30 points, get 12 rebounds, and have 4 assists for them to move on in this series. The last part of what Alan Hahn said is absolutely true. Don't fumble the game away like he did in Game 3 in the other series last year. That's the problem. That's the only problem I have. You have an off shooting night, I get it. don't throw the game away with stupid turnovers, ridiculous turnovers. That's all. That's the one part that's right. But it's really, let me ask you, Angel. I mean, is it unfair from a national perspective that if the Celtics don't win the title, that it's a failed season?
I don't think so. Honestly, I really don't. And don't forget, you also got 2 former Sixers in there as well with Drew and Al Horford.
Yeah.
It's not an epic failure. I don't see it that way. I mean, it's what, second year for your second year coach, bringing them to Eastern Conference Finals. You'd hope they make it to the finals and win it all, but I don't think so. Because wasn't Boston at one point throughout the season also pretty much prone to injuries, and they were able to bounce back with the bench that they have?
Yeah, no, I mean, not a lot though. They were lucky. Porzingis, they managed him. They managed him pretty well. It wasn't like some of Joel Embiid stuff. I think overall, Porzingis, I'll tell you exactly. I think he played the most games that he's played in quite some. Let's see, regular season. Let's see, this year. Why does it say 2020? Well. Yeah, he played 57 games this year. 57 games. The 80 series. And yeah. So that says 2023 though. But it might be 2023/2024 season. Anyway. So look, they won 64 games this year. The fact that they have Al Horford, who is one of the straws that makes stirs the drink for this Celtic team. There's just between Derek White, Holiday, Horford, Pritchard, Hauser, Cornette. I mean, they have a deep enough bench. There should be no excuses. Absolutely no excuses. What I don't want to see is some of the easy layups that were given in the last series as well. Even go back to the Miami series, but the last series. As well, some of the easy layups to Cleveland that cannot happen. I mean, not against this Indiana Pacer team because this team can put up score in bunches and bunches and bunches. But it's I'm just going to enjoy it. You have people complain every game if they don't win by this or that. They don't look good. I don't care if they win every game by a point. It doesn't matter to me. That goes all the way to the final. I don't care. I'm way past sexiness of wins. I just want to see, just don't turn the ball over a lot, which on the whole, for the most part, they have been. By the way, they're minus 481 to win the series or to win tonight for minus 481. I think that's for the series, and Pacers are plus 360. Man, so tonight, and I don't know what you know what, hang on a second. Oh, yeah, okay, that's just for tonight's game, my bad. Celtics are favored by 10. The total is 221.5. Celtics, the money line, minus 481. You got to go the other way. You got to play the Pacers at plus 360. You can't lay minus 481 for the Celtics at home in game one. No. Nope. So if you're doing shekels, I mean, you got it. In game one, I would probably take the Pacers plus the 10. And certainly on the money line, you can't lay $481 to win 100 on the Celtics in game one. I wouldn't do it. Game two might be a different story, but not game one. Let's see. There's always that feeling out process that you have to go through. But I'm picking the Celtics in 6 for the record. And out west, I think it goes 7. I have I'm sort of rooting for Minnesota. But I think that's going to be one hell of a series. But very rarely do you see a team like you don't get this kind of like the Denver Nuggets are kind of getting left off the hook here because they're the defending champions. They didn't play particularly well against the Lakers. We all thought, okay, they're playing down to the competition. Yada, yada, yada. It's the Lakers. All the games were close. The Lakers blew double-digit leads in every single game, or most of those games. They blew double-digit leads. And Denver sort of toying with them, kind of flipped the switch on whenever they wanted and ended up winning. But the way, the scoring drought that they had and the way they were humiliated, 3 games at home, humiliated. I don't know. I seem to think they're getting left off they're just kind of like, I mean, if the Celtics played that way, people would lose their minds. I mean, see, I told you. Well, they're the defending champions, and they got humiliated at home 3 times by the Timberwolves. And I feel like they're not coming under the same scrutiny that the Celtics would have, and maybe even some other teams as well. I mean, a defending champion get cream like that, even though it went 7, and get cream like that 3 games at home. I don't know. But I can't worry about that, Angel. I can't worry about it. I take it 1 quarter at a time. That's my flow. 1 quarter at a time. Pacing myself. 8 o'clock start tonight, which means 8:20. So it's going to be a late night, no question about it. And the game's on ESPN, so I got to listen to Stephen A's pedantic blathering probably again. Maybe he'll go on some passionate rant about the Celtics. We'll play that again and we'll come back from the break after 9:30 for those who missed it. So, look, Siakam, Halliburton, Turner, Nembhard. I mean, the Celtics should be able to contain them. They won 3 out of 5 during the regular season, if that means anything. But I'm picking them in 6. And if they lose tonight, you watch the I told you, Tatum's not a leader. Tatum's not that guy. Tatum's not that. I'll be on Tatum's not this. Tatum's not that. Well, Tatum could not turn the ball over, score 30 points, get 15 rebounds and 12 assists, and they lose a game, and those people will still blame him somewhere along the way.
More likely.
But not that he doesn't deserve some of the scrutiny and some absolutely. And he doesn't have, everybody says how he doesn't have the it factor. He doesn't have that it factor. No one's comparing him to LeBron James or some of the other players. But I do think he has shown more leadership qualities than he's getting credit for. Especially the last 3 games. He led the team in scoring the last 3 playoff games. I don't know what else he's supposed to do. Just don't turn the ball over. That's all. I mean, everybody's going to turn the ball over once in a while, but don't make it a habit, which he has in the past in some playoff series. He has. But they're not going to give him the benefit of the doubt anymore, Angel, or this team, because they've been to the Eastern Conference Finals 5 out of 6. They've been to the championship. They've lost. And they lost Game 7 last year at home to Miami, the team that was the 8th seed. So a lot of the stuff is fresh in people's minds, but you got to take every season, every game as its own separate entity. That's the way I'm looking at it. Meanwhile, last night in the WNBA, and I found myself stopping between clicking on some of the shows I was watching or whatever. I found myself stopping occasionally onto ESPN between Indiana and who they playing? The Connecticut Sun? Was it the Connecticut Sun? I think they were playing last night. I don't even remember. But they were at Cambridge Fieldhouse last night. Indiana was. Here's one of the highlights.
Bonner gets denied by Boston.
That wasn't it. That wasn't it.
Bonner gets denied by Boston. Wheeler finds Clark from the logo.
Yep, and meanwhile, that put them up at the 70-68. They put Indiana, the Fever, up 70-68. They eventually went out and lose the game, but earlier in the game, in the second quarter, this happened.
Limping towards the Indiana bench. Ooh. Oh, just a misstep before she got to Bree Jones. And Clark slams the chair and is going right back to the locker room.
That was the game. It was tied at 34 then, thanks to ESPN. And then she got a technical foul a little bit later on.
Clark being guarded by Thomas, who takes it away. Here's Harris, and Clark's going to foul Harris. Will they call it a transition take foul? They will, and now Clark gets a T in addition. That is an unbelievably costly sequence from Caitlin Clark. Turns it over, then gives a transition take foul, and then a technical as well.
Yeah, she just loses the handle. Alyssa Thomas able to come up with it.
Yeah, again, thanks. Yes, and then this happened in the game. I actually I had this on towards the end of the game. Christy Sides, the head coach of Indiana, is being interviewed while the game is going on. This is ridiculous.
WNBA presented by Google. Coach, third quarter, you all have closed strongly. What have you liked about the way you finished quarters?
I love our defense right now. We're active. We're pressuring the ball. We're making them work for everything.
What was your message coming to your team for these last 10 minutes?
This has got to be the best quarter of our season together right now. Everything, our finishes, our offense, got to get stopped.
Thanks a lot, Coach. Clark, her first. Can you imagine doing that to Greg Popovich or something? I mean, it's just dumb. It's stupid. It's another thing that the WNBA, some of the gripes that they have are legit. That would be, if I were her, I wouldn't have done it. We got the last couple minutes here. You know, it's a tie game, close game. Just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So we'll get to this. So Caitlin Clark again is, I guess she's. Did you see? I don't know if you saw. I made one of Sports Center's highlights. I think it was Friday night. She ran into a high post ditch. I think it was across the ball midcourt. I forget who was taller than her and bigger than her, and she didn't have those screens in Iowa. She ran, boom, smack into it, legit. Never saw it. What's her name was standing there at the half court line, just waiting for her. She got baited into it. The way the point guard brought the ball up the floor, I thought she was down for the count. She hit the boom, bam. But to her credit, she got right back up. But that would have hurt your average man size. Forget her. I mean, just totally different WNBA. And I think it's going to catch up with Caitlin, unfortunately, because you had no time off between the Final Four and the WNBA season. That's ridiculous.
Yep.
That's another thing. They're going to have to tweak that schedule and have it start at least a month after that. That is not right. To go right from the college game. Can you imagine that? And the men, they go from March. Okay, you get drafted. There's the summer games in August. I get that. But then a couple exhibition games in September, but you're not starting the season until October. So that's almost 6 months, 5.5 months before you're starting. This season, like a month after. It's ridiculous. You're going to get back into it. It's crazy. Anyway, 727-858-6650. When we come back, I will play the embarrassment that was Stephen A. Smith on Sunday. Pre-game video before the Knicks got walloped by the Indiana Pacers. And by the way, everybody on ESPN, 16 people picked the game. 16 people were wrong. 0 for 16. Every one of them picked the Knicks. But they're unbiased and fair and impartial. We'll show you a fair and impartial Stephen A. Smith embarrassing himself and his company. Coming up at the bottom of the hour as the Pete Sheppard Show continues right here, live from the Naples Well Planning Studio on the Riptide Media Network.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And, with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding. Whoa! Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Woohoo! Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie. So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
You can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this. My music hits me so hard, makes me say, oh my Lord, thank you for blessing me. What I do right and do like this is good. Right, know you're down.
Final segment of the Pete Sheppard Show here live on the Naples Road Planning Studios of Riptide Media Network. Angel Martinez is on hand as well. Who doesn't like that song? Everybody loves that song.
Everybody likes that song.
I couldn't wear the pants back then though. I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that.
I couldn't either. Even if I looked like a ridiculous. Matter of fact, I looked like a flagpole because in high school is what maybe all but $1.30, $1.35 at most.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a skinny lad too. I was like $1.45, $1.50, and I was over 6 feet. But man, those were the days. Anyway, I can't complain. I can't complain. Back here, final segment of the Pete Sheppard Show. We're going to get to Stephen A. from yesterday, or Sunday, I should say as well. Just some NFL notes to tell you about in case you don't know. Devontae Parker is retiring. That came out the other day after 9 years. He's with Philadelphia. I don't think you'll miss him all that much.
Nope.
He was okay with the Patriots. He wants to spend more time. Good for him. 31 years old, wants to spend the next, he's got 4 kids. He finishes with 369 catches for 5,266 yards and 27 touchdowns. Wish him well.
Yeah.
Okay, outside. I just want to make sure it wasn't on my end.
No, it's once again. Yeah.
It sounds like a phone's vibrating.
It's ridiculous, and it's
all right.
Now they're directly across the street, so you can even hear from over there. But yeah, they go over the same spot at least like 50 times.
Meanwhile, the Denver Broncos going to see how much linebacker Drew Sanders has improved from his rookie season, but third-round pick a year ago, he's going to be out for most of this year. He suffered a torn Achilles early during the team's off-season program in mid-April. That's just the worst. So many times you see these players missing seasons for off-field workouts and then OTAs. It hasn't happened yet, but so many times you get guys that miss the season just in OTAs. Speaking of OTAs, Justin Jefferson, he's been in talks with the Minnesota Vikings regarding a contract extension. He has not been spotted yet at the team's training facility yesterday for the start of OTAs. He also didn't participate in the early portion of the Vikings offseason program. They need him, boy. They can't afford. I mean, they got to do something with him. Who's J.J. McCarthy going to throw to? Meanwhile, What else happened? You have Asheem Rice is with the Kansas City Chiefs, participating as they begin full squad offseason practice. Adam Sheppard was told he's a participant in the early portion of the Chiefs offseason program. The meeting being held virtually. He was arrested this spring in Dallas, charged with 1 count of aggravated assault, 1 count of collision involving serious bodily injury, and 6 counts of collision involving injury for his involvement in that 6-car crash on the freeway. Police have alleged that Rice was racing another vehicle at 119 miles per hour shortly before the crash. I've seen the video. This is so stupid. Just absolutely stupid.
That's what happens when you build a dynasty and you get 6 players during the offseason and already get themselves into trouble.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense. All right. Meanwhile, in case you missed it, over the weekend on Sunday afternoon, Game 7 at the Garden, Madison Square Garden, between the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. Although you'd never know the Indiana Pacers even were going to be in the game. So here's here's exactly what happened pregame, and even Spike Lee, I think, felt a little uncomfortable during this. Stephen A. goes off on, goes crazy, and as only a fanboy beyond belief can do, they could have pulled 100 people out of the stands at Madison Square Garden and done this.
Talking about all of that, Stephen A. Smith, it is your moment. Please rally the Knicks faithful for a totally unbiased opinion of the outcome of this game.
Oh, boy. Good luck with that.
Well, see, I don't have to rise New York to the occasion, because they all here. Everybody's ready. Ignore Bob Myers, Mr. California. Ignore Will Bard, Mr. Chicago. They ain't here right now. You understand what's at stake? It's been since 2000 that we've been in the conference finals. We've waited 24 years for this moment right here. OG Anunoby is back. Josh Hart's going to play. When you talk about Game 7, it comes down to grinding. It comes down to guts. It comes down to who would have been. Come up in here. Come up in here, Spike Lee. You come right here. Come right here. It's orange and blue skies, baby. This is what it's all about right here. This is what we've been waiting for right here. It's Game 7.
Assaulting him.
Get that Stephen A. gonna knock him out.
The New York Knicks, it's about grinding. It's about guts. It's about heart. That's what games are. And Clark, this is what it's about. This is what we waited for right here. One game, 48 minutes. Orange and blue skies, baby. Orange and blue skies. That is what it's all about, Bob.
God, in Game 7, I'm going back to my seat.
That's right.
For anybody from Indiana.
Where's my sriracha bottle? Extra sriracha in my face would make me feel better than listening to that. That is beyond embarrassing. As I said, I was in an establishment watching the game. The volume was up, and people were throwing napkins and coasters at the TV. A couple people where I was watching the game. Not that that's going to do anything either. That's kind of stupid too, but it was kind of funny. Just an embarrassing performance by Stephen A. there, and it wasn't entertaining, wasn't amusing, and to do that and not even talk about the Indiana Pacers, and halftime was no better. Anyway, I felt that way. Dan Patrick also felt that way. He was embarrassed for everybody over there.
Now we turn our attention to ESPN's New York Knicks, who lost in Game 7 to the Pacers. You know, Pacers did play in the game. I just want to let ESPN know. If you want to buy into East Coast bias, you have every reason to buy into ESPN's East Coast bias watching that game. How about some impartiality here? Okay. I was embarrassed for ESPN because it felt like it was all about the Knicks. Even at halftime, it was about the Knicks. The Pacers aren't exciting. I get it. You know, not big names, not a sexy team. But you still have to cover the game. You got to be fair. I don't need a Stephen A. Smith arrival video. I don't need a pep talk with him and Spike Lee. He doesn't work for the Knicks. You work for ESPN. I was really surprised. And I didn't care who won. But after that, I was rooting for the Pacers. I thought, you know what? Let's make this uncomfortable for you. And Indiana was the better team, but they were only the better team because the Knicks ran out of gas. They ran out of players. And, you know, I don't know if a Knicks fan goes, you know what? That was pretty impressive. I hope they do. That was impressive what they did. You get them health. You already have some guys that got some great, run here. And I would be really excited about next season.
Yeah, they should be. And Dan Patrick's absolutely right. I think he shares the. And Stephen A., by the way, after that game was nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. Then I'm not going to play the other video again from yesterday. We had Dr. Schmuck on and stethoscope and all that stuff, and it was just silly and stupid. And him and Alan Hahn, it was dumb.
Yeah,
they try so hard. They try so hard to be what TNT is, and it's never going to be that way. And when they try to be funny, it comes off stupid. And I'm embarrassed for him. I'm embarrassed for some of my colleagues that work over there that I truly respect in other sports who are also big sports fans. And I promise you, they are sitting at home doing this, cringing during that pregame stuff yesterday. Just absolutely ridiculous. The Knicks went as far as they could go with what they had. And I don't know why anybody should be surprised that they ran out of gas yesterday, or on Sunday, I should say. Got pummeled at home in Game 7 because Indiana's better. And the people who, and I know Dan was saying, I know what he was trying to say, that the Indiana Pacers are not, a sexy team and all that stuff. They led the league in scoring this year at 123.3 points per game. What? So if they played in New York, that'd be if they were, say they played in Brooklyn, they're probably, would it get more hype? Probably. But they don't have the quote-unquote sexy players. Still, Halliburton, Siakam are excellent. Turner, they have some good players on this team. We know Rick Carlisle is a hell of a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's a hell of a coach. So I don't, it's one of those, again, big market, small market things. But the team, if an exciting team, they led the league in scoring at 123.3 a game. So it's not my problem. You people don't know about it. If you haven't watched this team play or been, then you've been living under a rock. Trust me, if the New York Knicks average 123.3 points per game, or God forbid the Lakers, you'd have them on. You already talk about these teams enough that done nothing. So I think it's crazy to if you're just coming light shines on Marblehead because the Indiana Pacers. Now you just realize that they're a pretty good team. After leading the league in scoring this year, 123 points. So unbelievable. Meanwhile, speaking of stupid Knicks fans, Evan Roberts of WFAN doesn't understand why the Knicks fans are content. It sounds very similar, Angel, to what Mick was talking about, Mick Colagio last time, about Bruins fans. They definitely overachieved this year, getting to where they are. Some people won't look at it that way because of the way they lost. But there's no question in the postseason that the Knicks overachieved. And Evan Roberts doesn't understand that.
What I do not understand from a lot of Knicks fans today is how you're okay. I don't understand that. I don't understand the thank yous. I don't understand the tears. I don't understand the chants. I don't understand these standing ovations that were given out yesterday. And maybe that says more about me, that I am broken as a sports fan. But when my team loses, it doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter why. When they lose and the season ends, I do not sit there and act like, well, we accomplished a lot and that was a lot of fun. I don't understand that. The facts are the New York Knicks got eliminated in the second round of the postseason. The same place they got eliminated 1 year ago. Facts. The facts are they had a lead in Game 3 with a 2-0 series lead, and they blew it. Facts. The facts are they got blown out in a Game 7 at home. Facts. And here are the other facts. Yes, the Knicks were ravaged by injuries. I don't deny that. That doesn't make me feel better. It never did, and it never will. So what I don't understand about my fellow New Yorkers is what happened to you. Why are we celebrating? Why are we happy? Why are we smiling? Why are we saying thank you? Do I have to be the voice of reason? I'd be pissed. No. I'd be angry, and I'd be devastated that my season ended.
All right. Well, I certainly can understand Knicks fans, very much like Bruins fans, feeling the same way. And the Bruins were tied back now, but not like the Knicks were. The Knicks were really banged up. It wasn't Tom Thibodeau coaching that team. I'm not sure a lot of coaches would have gotten them that far. the way they did and all the hard. They just simply ran out of gas. It happens. Meanwhile, the other debate going on is Dallas and Minnesota get ready to play Game 1 in the Western Conference Finals. Mike Greenberg yesterday, and here's the new. And this is the argument you get, or the debates that they try to do on ESPN about the face of the league. I don't give a damn who they think the face of the league is, nor do I care. There's a lot of people who could be the face of the league. Mike Greenberg, though, says it's on Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, face of the NBA is one of those things like in court definition of pornography. You just know it when you see it.
Really?
Wow. I mean, that's an old expression. That's not. I'm just making that up.
I think we're the two older guys. We're the probably, yeah.
You know,
young people.
I'm familiar with that. I was like, what?
Yeah, I was ready for that.
It was a Supreme Court.
Not this early in the morning.
You know it when you see it. Like, you don't have to argue about it. You just know it. You're either the face of the league or you're not. Like, at one point, Michael Jordan just came along and he just made no one could say anything other than that. And others, LeBron James, for a long time. You just, as Ant-Man forced his way into that conversation now, or does he still need to win a championship?
Again, it's like a useless argument.
Yeah.
I can make a case for a lot of people. There's like, oh, Tatum can't be the face of the league. I don't care. Tatum can't be the face of the league. He hasn't won anything yet. Well, Anthony Edwards can't be the face of the league. He hasn't won anything yet. I mean, so is that it? Is Jokic not the face of the league anymore? Even if he is, I don't know. I lose track of all these faces. Angel. I don't get it. I don't get what the obsession is to try in some of these debates. I think it's just a waste of time. Here I am talking, but I'm talking about them talking about it. Like to me, it's a waste of the face of the NBA.
I think it's just filler because it's this time of the year when things start to tend to slow down, the gaps in between the games, between the NBA and NHL, they got to find something to talk about. But
NHL, they refuse to talk about the NHL. Stephen A. can't talk about it. Can't talk about it on Get Up. I mean, on First Take. He can't. He's so out of his league when he talks about anything except the NBA. It's embarrassing. He'll go for the absolute headline. He'll tell you about a headline. Listen in, talk about college football, baseball, or hockey. He can't talk hockey. He can't talk college football. He thinks he can. He can't. And even in the NFL, he's out of his league. He makes fun of teams and everything. But look at all the goofs and mess ups he has had by not identifying the right players and the right teams and everything else. Some major mess ups over the years. And in basketball, to do what he did. And that he was allowed to do it on a national broadcast. You cannot tell me that Adam Silver would be happy about watching that.
By the way, where is he?
Nowhere. I don't know. Where is he? I haven't seen him. I've never seen a photo of him anywhere. Nothing.
No.
Or a TV shot. Nothing. Maybe he's waiting now. Maybe he's in Boston tonight. Maybe he's in Boston tonight for Game 1, and maybe he'll be in Minnesota for Game 1 of their series. I don't know.
I've never seen a commissioner go pretty much ghost during any kind of playoffs. I think the last that we all saw of him may have been even December of last year.
It's just, I don't get it. Meanwhile, I will say this. Kevin Garnett, going back to the Knicks in Indiana, Kevin Garnett was on the Stephen A. Smith show, on his podcast. I love KG. He's a big supporter of Julius Randle.
Do you believe that the New York Knicks need a number one option to go along with Brunson in order to come out of the East next year?
What is Randall? Man, Julius Randle is a 25-10 guy.
I love Randall, but he ain't a number one option, though.
You tripping.
I'm not tripping.
And he do his game with the 3-ball. Man, y'all tripping on Julius Randle. Julius Randle's one of the harder guards in this mud. And he left-handed. He got a 3-ball. He can play make. Man, I mean, he ain't perfect.
Right.
But, man, with this team, because you know what happens when you bring in a superstar, you bring somebody else. You got that superstar. You gotta intertwine him in with the fabric of what the Knicks are. The Knicks are gritty, they gruddy, they play for 48 to end your. They tears. If you can't fit that, the Knicks are perfect. The Knicks should not be touched. Let's go. Let's run this. Let's run this 2 years with this team, and then talk about that superstar later.
KG is dead on accurate. Dead on balls accurate again, my Mona Lisa veto. He's so right. I don't understand this. And it's going to be great to see. And I forget how many games that Brunson and Randall played together this year. I don't think it wasn't a lot, right? I don't think it was a lot.
No.
But I want to see it. And as usual, when you get star players together, I'm not looking for the best players sometimes. I'm looking for the right ones. Now, the Celtics got both with Porzingis and Drew Holiday. So that worked out. But there were some skeptics out there. How are they going to blend in? How they're going to fit? I understand that. But I think KG is absolutely dead on here with Brunson, and Randall. Let's get them a whole season together. Do you know how many teams in the NBA would love to have that? I mean, Charlotte took the whole year off. You don't think they'd love to have those two guys or even one of them on their team? Crazy. So if I'm a Knicks fan, I'm very optimistic about next season. No question about it.
Yep.
So my quick KG story, besides covering him at the Garden and everything else, and nobody, if you ever had front row, if you could ever hear the players talk trash on the floor, he was right at the top. If not the top, during his time in Boston anyway. R to X-rated language every single time down the floor. I used to see, sometimes you see the little kids who get tickets with their mommy and daddy. They're not paying attention to the game. Every time down the floor. It didn't matter who you were, what color you were, what country you're from, what size you were, what position you played. You were MF, N-word, MF, N-word, MF. Some very colorful metaphors that he threw out there using those two forms of communication. And it was absolutely sitting under the basket. I would pee my pants laughing because a couple of times I got to sit in great seats under the basket after we did our show from the Garden. And it's just nonstop. I couldn't stop laughing. It's just, he should have, if he was mic'd up, you talk about Netflix special and a roast, that guy could host. But that's not even the story I was going to tell you about. He caused me to break my ankle. KG.
Did he?
Yes. I was covering, back then it was a McDonald's All-American type game. It was at the Springfield Civic Center. Sean McDonough and the late, great Billy Packer were calling the game on CBS. And I was there because there was a local kid in where the local station I was working at, this is before Boston, kid that ended up going to Florida State, was playing in the game. I can't even remember his name. But I had never seen KG play before. And so this was a big nationally televised game, 2:30 in the afternoon on a Saturday on CBS. And again, Sean McDonough, Billy Packer, late great Billy Packer calling the game. And clearly KG was, they were all 18-year-olds. Clearly KG was by far the best player on the floor. And I was like, my God, whoever gets this guy is just in for a treat. And of course, he gets drafted by Minnesota. Yada, yada, yada. I was fine. So I was walking up to my car in the parking lot at the Springfield Civic Center, looking like an idiot at the stat sheet. And just in awe. And I even have a marker out as I'm walking up the steps with my tape recorder and my thing and my notepad and everything else. And I missed the step. Going up the stairs. Bam. Cut my back of my wrist. Didn't realize I'd broken my ankle. I was in pain, but then it went away. I get in the car. I have to drive an hour back to where I lived at the time in central Massachusetts to go work my DJ shift at night from 8 o'clock at night till 2 o'clock in the morning. And then it didn't, by, I'd say 11 o'clock at night, I was in massive pain. So I started having a couple of cocktails, seeing that would ease away. So that was fine. Numbed it a little bit. I didn't take Advil. I was on perched up high. I didn't want to bother anybody. I go home, and by the time I fall asleep, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I wake up the next morning on Sunday. I get out of bed. I tried to get out of bed. As soon as I took a step, bam, down I went. So my a friend of mine drove me to the hospital, and it was only a linear fracture of my ankle. But, I thought it was a bad, because sometimes sprains a lot of times are worse than breaks. He's like, no, you broke your ankle. So I was in a boot for like 4 months. You weren't supposed to drive, but of course I'm going to drive. It's on my right foot. I have to drive. I got to go to work. It's just the way it was. But anyway, that's my KG story. He caused me to break my ankle, which I brought up to him twice when he was with the Celtics.
Oh boy.
He called me an MF, and the other word. No, I'm kidding. All right, my friend. Thanks so much. You anything coming up on Broad Street today, or anything like that? You want to plug or anything like that, or just gonna chill the rest of the day?
Probably, well, there's no such thing as chilling when you're still getting things done around here for the network. So no, I'm not chilling. By the way, Rick Marcus says, happy birthday to Mr. T, and congrats to Antonio Brown on his upcoming bankruptcy.
I miss the Antonio Brown stories. I really do. I really do.
Definitely will not be chilling for sure, because I have a meeting a little bit later on, a little bit after lunch. Hopefully over something good. But no, I wanted to share out with everybody there on the website, folks, broadstSouth.com. As I'm rebuilding a couple things, I can't make it, and I can't emphasize to make it any easier. Thank those who listen in on the Digital Sports Radio app. But right on the homepage now, you can't miss it. There's Pete. Where you guys can click on the play button there. You guys can hear the web player from the radio. And, oh, by the way, if you click on either Google Play or the App Store, it's super simple. You can get the app that way. You can watch the show live. You guys see to the right of that stuff. And, by the way, there's more stuff there as well. You guys can see the Orlando Predators. And this is, you can be adventurous on this website here, because if you click on certain things that are up there, you'll see when it highlights, that means it's clickable. So you guys can go there.
Nice.
You can also see up here the Prowlers, which is the dance team for the Orlando Predators. Click on the pictures. You guys can see that they got other stuff that's going on there. And of course, you can go browse around the website itself, but there's always tons of stuff to look at and to do there. And I try to make it as interactive as I possibly can to make it easier for everyone to follow and enjoy and download the apps and all that good happy horse stuff.
Great stuff, Angel. As always, thanks so much. You can still get in on my poll until tomorrow, 20 hours left. Who wins the Pacers-Celtics Eastern Conference Final Series? So far, lots of votes. I had the choices are Celtics in 5, Celtics in 6, Celtics in 7, or Pacers win in 5, 6, or 7, because you only allowed 4 choices tops. So far, 50.6% say Celtics in 6. 31.9% say Celtics in 5, 8.8% say Celtics in 7, and 8.8% say Celtics or Pacers win in 5, 6, or 7. We'll have a huge show lined up for you tomorrow. Going to be lots of great guests. We'll recap Game 1 of the Celtics and the Indiana Pacers, and we'll preview the other series and Stanley Cup playoffs as well. NFL OTAs continue. Lots of good stuff. Lots of great guests. We'll have Game 3 tomorrow night also from the Florida Everblades, and that will be Game 3. We'll have someone. I think Chris Palin's going to join me tomorrow as well. So great stuff. Angel Martinez will be here, hopefully. And thanks, everybody, for checking out the show. Kicking butt here. I'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m., always from the Naples Wealth Planning Studio on the Riptide Media Network. See ya. Have a great Tuesday, everybody.